Make the magic happen. People can see us. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to bonus content. Scott, Tony, Noption, myself. Well, not Scott. I don't know why I said Scott. He'll be here soon. And Jarrett's here.
Hi.
I wanted to talk. The bonus content idea I came up with is about this Last of Us television show. I know some of us here don't care about The Last of Us. I respect that. But it's a cool idea.
Barely not enough.
Not enough to not talk about it now. We gotta stay. We gotta stay on this relevant topic train. I just like torturing Tony. Y'all know this. Like, come on.
I can leave.
I wanted to talk about casting your perfect television video game series. It doesn't have to be The Last of Us. This is where it looped around, where we could maybe come for a circle, because people have been throwing out casting ideas for this Last of Us show of who will play Joel, who will play Ellie. But I wanted to know from each of you all, and let it be known, people watching this, they're like, oh, wow, this is a cool idea. I wonder how much they talked about it. It's like, no, I just came up with this, and I didn't prepare my co-hosts at all, so I'll maybe try and buy them some time. But what video game would you want to see adapted into a television show, and who would you get to play the leads? And it's fun, too, coming off of The Witcher, which did you watched it, right, Jarrett?
Yes,
We still haven't ever talked about it. Did you like it?
I did.
Snobbish and I were like all over that. We were like, yes, please.
As a reader of the first two books, it was really interesting to see. It's also interesting to see like the evolution of Geralt as a character over all of the different media that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
Like books, Geralt is like actually a very talkative, like he's definitely contextualized more like a gumshoe. Talks a lot to himself, talks a lot to everybody else, and he's like just Mr. Badass dude with all the answers. And like the game like sort of presented him as a person who doesn't talk. He kind of only talks when he has to.
Mm-hmm.
And the Netflix show kind of just made him like a grumpy like self-talker.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, just the amount of words he says is like way less, has been way less over the years since the books and then the games and then this TV show. Like anyone who goes from the TV show to the books would be like incredibly surprised how talkative Geralt is.
But like in the games, Geralt talks to himself a lot.
A lot of it's just inner monologue though, right? Like
Yeah.
he's not talking to anyone necessarily, he's just kind of thinking. So you hear his voice a lot, but it's him thinking and not talking.
Mm-hmm. And he would just kind of gab to himself in the books, because that sounds
Well, in the
great.
books, he's like gabbing. He's like talking to Roach, but he's also talking to people like a lot. Like he has a lot of words to say to people, which is just an interesting sort of thing that you kind of see these characters like him and like like the Mandalorian, for example. Like these are characters that kind of talk when they need to or talk when they want to. And in the books, he wants to talk a lot. He has a lot to say to people.
Yeah. It's did you like that kind of version of him more, or did you prefer how the books kind of interpreted him? Or
No,
made him
I don't
out to
like
be?
how the books interpret him because I think they put a lot of emphasis in him kind of being like a smart guy and not like for a person who doesn't like see people very often. I think it makes more sense to me that it's someone like a Witcher who also like kind of recognizes the just like the living bias against him wherever he goes. Like doesn't have anything to say to anyone. That makes more sense to me than someone who like is just waiting, has been waiting for someone to just talk to them so they can just talk the ear off about Witcher shit. That seems like not in line with a character that I would paint this person to be.
Sure. Makes sense. But back on the rails, we've had like the Castlevania series, we had the Witcher series. Now we're getting some HBO Last of Us series, which people want my take on it. Sounds cool. I'm excited to see it. Doesn't necessarily have to be better or the same as the game. I hope they end up going with a different story. It doesn't sound like it, but either way, I'm interested. I'll watch it. I'll have a good time probably with it. Or a very depressing time, more realistically. But Is there any game that stands out to you, Jarrett, that you would love to see translated to a TV series? Maybe just like a one-season miniseries, even. It could be like a tight, fixed thing.
I don't know, because I've always been of the mind that we should stop trying to make video games like movies and stop trying to create them in a way that they live that they can live in the same conversations as like movies or TV shows, because I think that video games are never as good as far as uh like writing and storytelling is concerned than a movie, and it's almost like part of the design of a video game that it can't be because it has to be interactive.
Yeah.
um, and the more we try to make our movies like or make our video games like movies, the more we are ruining why it works as a video game in the first place. um, that said,
Yeah, I was gonna say
think
like
when
I
the-
agree totally, but like come on, like come into my play space and play with me, have fun, and we're gonna play.
when
We're
you're
gonna build
attempting
blocks.
to like make I think there's lots of stories you can tell um from like video game. You can take video game like IP and franchises and definitely make palatable stories from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know that I would want to see. So I guess I don't know. I don't know if this would count, because I would think I would want a Wolf Among Us TV show,
Yeah.
though that's really just a Fables TV show.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that you need that story, like this specific like Wolf Among Us story, which is just a prequel to Fables anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But Big B is
But-
like the main character. Could be a good place to start.
yeah, I would like. I mean, maybe something that lives in the same time period or around that same frame. I mean, I guess with Telltale games, you could just kind of make them movies and just remove, like, pick a track and like that's the story. You don't have to worry about like the multiple endings or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess you could just make a Wolf Among Us, like pick a set of decisions, and then those are just the movie you're making or the TV show you're making.
I like the Wolf Among Us game story too, just as that prequel. I think that would be a good one to do, because you get a nice introduction to how that world works and the era. It's like 90s, I think. The era. Really
Yeah,
good.
I think it's early 90s.
Nabishin, what about you? I'm sure you've never. Well, you might have thought about it, but I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
There's nothing much really. Like nothing I could really think about, because like most of the stuff I like is like either kind of episodic already or basically anime or just wouldn't fit as far as like a TV series or necessarily even a movie either.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only one that would really fit is like something like Deadly Premonition, but like that doesn't really fit because that's just Twin Peaks. So
Yeah,
That's
that's true.
literally
That just exists already.
yeah.
True.
And obviously Yakuza as well, but that's also like something that's based off like like Yakuza films and like
J dramas, I'm sure.
yeah, this is basically like something that's already like pre-established.
That would be really
I mean,
cool,
like-
though. I'd love to watch a Yakuza show. I think that would translate really well to that medium.
I mean, just look at anything, dude.
I know.
Honestly.
As someone who doesn't, but like something kind of like how Yakuza has broken into the West now, something that could break into the West and be a thing like that, but appeals to Western audiences and is over the top and fun and not an anime, like a live, like a J drama that has a little bit more mass appeal, I guess.
I mean, like the thing about that is just like the tone thing. It's like the Wolfenstein issue, like that you kind of
Yeah.
It's just like how do you keep something so serious yet have something so wacky at the same time? Like it works for a video game, doesn't really work for like TV shows and stuff like
True. It would be hard to balance that in a show.
It arguably doesn't work in the video game sometimes.
Yeah.
Like Wolfenstein 2 has a really has a very bad pacing tone problem.
Yes.
that.
But you're right. That totally works for me when I play Yakuza, and I'm like, I love Kiryu and I believe in him. I cry when he does his monologues and stuff, but like I'm totally also okay with him being a goober all the time. So I don't know how I could do that with the show.
I mean, like the only thing like I probably see like the closest thing from like holistic games I'm looking right now is like weirdly enough Valhalla, but like that's like talking. That's like a talking TV show, and that's like and you just roll with that. But yeah, I guess you could say something like Cheers or something like that if you want to compare it to something else.
But
Just
something
like
more
just
intimate, you know, I get that.
Yeah, just characters and like just them talking and just the conversation is what carries the show. I don't know too many shows like that, so like just one setting and just like just talking the entire time. But like it's probably interesting.
Hi Scott, welcome to the party. Welcome to bonus content party. We're talking about the Last of Us TV show. I was asking everyone to take a video game series and imagine it as a television series, and who would you want to lead it? So this was the Jarrett game. Come on, Scott, watch Castlevania. It's sick. Do something. Feed me.
Do something.
Feed me ideas. I have so many. Mass Effect series. Obviously, just please give me a Mass Effect television series. I understand it's Star Trek, but I want this to come. I want it to come full circle in that Star Trek inspired Mass Effect, and now Mass Effect is Star Trek.
No.
Comes all the way around.
When Mass Effect becomes a TV show, it's a sitcom that has nothing to do with the Shepard, but it's just some random people in the tower talking about shit.
Yeah,
the thing is, that is a Mass Effect show I'd want to watch. I do not want to watch like the invasion of the fucking Reapers as told by Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I will watch like the bar, like 2-camera sitcom about what goes on at that one club
in the Citadel or on Omega
or no, what is the
Horror's Den.
The
the
asteroid
lady
city in Mass Effect 2.
Omega.
Yeah, Omega.
Don't fuck with Arya.
Like Arya Talok is running the club in Omega, and all the chaos and
insanity that comes with that.
Yeah, it'd be a TV show worth watching, I think.
I mean, like what I thought the sequel to Mass Effect 3 would have been was just like them focusing on the First Contact War. I mean, it'd be a prequel, and you know what's going to happen, but like at the same time, it'd be like an interesting thing, like if you like followed Anderson and see how that all played out.
For sure. I was thinking like whatever Mass Effect show. I love Jamie Alexander to play FemShep. I feel like she would do a good job. She has that kind of Jennifer Hale presence. She was Lady Sif in the Thor movies.
But at the same time, this is where you keep like fucking up, right? Any Mass Effect show that has Shepard in it is just going to be a shitty show.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the story to tell. But like,
it's a story already told. 2, it's a story that doesn't fit the format. And 3, it's a better show would be a different story set for that.
I just mean like if because we live in a reality where of course it would happen. But like if Shepard appeared not as the main character but as a side character, that's who I would want. That's like in my head, FemShep embodied as a person. Like I feel like that would be a good pick for that. Any like a Life is Strange series I think would also translate really well to a television show, but that's because like those games are kind of written like those the
would probably
dramas that they harken from
as a television show.
Maybe for you, Scott. I like the game series, but like there's so many great like coming of age stories that you could tell in that medium. I'd be super into it.
You just want a TV series to take out all player agency?
Yeah, so I don't have to feel as bad when it's sad at the end. I can just be sad.
Oh, you're the awful person, not me.
Yeah, exactly. You guys wrote it, like. But like, also think about like a Life is Strange show where like there are 2 final episodes and one goes one way and the other goes the other way.
See, like that's the thing I've always wanted.
That's a cool thing.
Like just in general, like I thought about this forever. It's like why can't we just have like not really multiple endings, but like and not even like a deleted scene type of shit, but like you just look what you want to look at and like at like a certain time, he's like, this is what your ending you want or some bullshit like that. That's dumb. That's feels for people like me.
Yeah,
like,
it's just hard. You know, I played. I don't know if you watched Bandersnatch, the Netflix thing that tried to do that, but it's just like it struggles to be as interesting. And that's why I think, like, to what you're saying and the idea with Life is Strange, like, it's just the last 2 episodes, right? Because, like, a lot of those games in particular have, like, very different final moments. So it's not, like, a huge divergence. You're not making choices the whole time. It's just kind of like this last choice that kind of gives you a different outcome. And it gives you something to talk about at the end of it, right? Like, I think that would be cool. I'm with you, Nabishin. You're not dumb. You're not dumb to me.
So the answer, no, it partly exists. The answer to your question though is you can't have it because it's way too goddamn expensive.
Yeah, people just don't want to pay for it.
Choose your adventures happen on YouTube.
Oh, that's true.
Like a lot of them. Okay, there's not that many.
But there's some. I've seen some.
If you mix and match your choose your own adventure stuff, most of it is games, sure,
Mhm.
but a good chunk of it is smaller videos on YouTube, and another good chunk of it is in books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like we all know how the books one turns out. It was interesting for one book, and then you never wanted to do that again.
It's like jump to page 78 and you get eaten by the Yeti again. And it's like, wow, I don't know, where did the Yeti even come from this time? Why is it always a Yeti? I was in a forest, like not on a mountaintop. Tony, do you have one?
I tuned out when you guys started talking about The Last of Us, and I'm only just now coming back.
All right. Well, here's the thing. I want you to take a video game. Doesn't have to be The Last of Us, obviously. And what would you want to see game franchise wise as a series, a television series or a short mini series? And if you have it, who would you put as the lead? Who would you cast as the lead?
Okay, so I would pick Oxygen Not Included
Okay.
to see something made out of.
Mm-hmm.
And who would I want to play the lead?
That's about like kids, right?
What, Oxygen Not Included?
Are they? I forget.
I hope not.
I don't know if they're
it's-
kids in that. I just don't remember.
And I would want Travis Willingham to play the lead.
Hell yeah. See? Was that so hard, everybody? Come on, Jarrett. Was that so hard?
Listen, you were talking about choose your own adventure TV shows, and I was very upset visibly for like 3 seconds.
Now it's like, fine. This is why we're never on podcasts together, Jarrett. I want you to know, Navish texted us earlier today when I said you'd be on, Jerry. He's like, does that mean I can't be on? Does that mean I
True,
have to
it's been like a year and a half since we've been on the same podcast.
It's been longer than that, dude.
It's been criminally too long.
Like the last time we did a podcast, it was like when we both host the show together and no one else was available.
Yeah, that's the only way it works.
It's all or nothing. Scott, do you have any you want to throw out there? Or are you disgusted with this idea that I presented?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take that. I'm seeing if the chat has any. Somebody said something compared it to The Sopranos. I don't know which one we were talking about. That's Yakuza, I guess, probably. Nicole said no more than one black person at a time. That's not true. Please don't say that.
I mean, also to be fair, can you prove that she's wrong?
Listen. According to that Key and Peele skit, it's not us.
It's not us.
It's true.
No, we've had the. It's true that we've never had like a Nabish and Jarrett blessing, but that's hard to get y'all in the same corral y'all together.
It's not that hard. I did it once.
You did do it
Blessing,
once.
Jared and Nicole.
Yeah. All-star cast.
Speaking of blackness, there's a funny thing I just remembered. Because this is a dumb conversation we had. Me and hanging with my friends, like this was years ago. It was like they were really into The Walking Dead, and like I think it was like around season 3 or 2. They were at the prison. Everyone knows
3.
That part is
season 3.
And I remember like we were watching the show, then like they introduced a new black
the
guy.
new black guy comes in just to kill the old black guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and like they literally say, "Oh, there's the black guy quota," and then I was like, "Wow, that's funny." And then I went on Twitter, and that's literally everything I saw: black guy quota, black guy quota. I laughed so hard. Oh man, that's crazy. I didn't know this was a thing, and that shows how ignorant I am.
Yeah, yeah, that was a very long run. Not the last time they did that on that show. Also, just to be clear, like at some point they introduce I think Morgan comes back, and then I think another black person dies just by happenstance in the same episode. So I stopped watching The Walking Dead a long time ago, though.
Shout out to people who still watch The Walking Dead. I don't know why.
Yeah,
But, I guess you guys are the real ones.
Rick's not even on that show anymore. I don't think so. Like. Not that you need him to be around. It's just like I don't even know why they kept going. The comic ended. Like just stop. But I guess it still makes a lot of money.
Still got Norman Reedus, right?
Yeah, Norman Reedus still around. It's true. Daryl never died, so there were never any riots. You know, like when the riots start happening in the streets, that's when. Oh no, Daryl must have finally died. Yeah, you get the Rick monologue where he's like, "We are the Walking Dead," and then it's the end of the show. Pretty much is. I'm pretty sure that's where it ends.
Did he lose like all his? Like he lost his wife and he lost his kid, right?
So in the comic books, he like grows old and dies. I don't necessarily know exactly how, but Carl's fine. But in the show, Carl dies. So like it's definitely like it's a very different thing. But like, Rick goes through a lot. I think he loses his hand at some point. Carl gets shot through the eye, and he has to nurse him back to health. He loses a lot of his memories, kind of different afterwards. But like it seems like in the from what I understand, the comic book spoilers ends when the Robert Kirkman who writes it says like this is Rick's story when Rick dies. It's the end of the series, and then Rick dies, and then 2 issues later is the end of the series. So, which I appreciate. I think that's cool to kind of stick with that idea. But yeah, it's hard to compare the TV version of that character and the comic version because they're just so different.
Isn't he still showrunner on the TV show though?
I think so. He's at least producer on it. But I don't know. Like that show is just so many problems. I don't know. Like I looked up a video of one time of like, here's just a couple of continuity things that you might notice with The Walking Dead. It's like, how did he fire 7 bullets out of a 6-round gun? Or like, where did they get this food? Or like, how do they have this supply? It's like, yeah, if you think about this for way too long, or just maybe 20 minutes too long, it's just gonna fall
for a
apart.
little longer than normal.
Yeah, it's a bummer. But let's get started. Let's get the real show started and talk about some video games, video juegos. I said that to somebody at PAX, and they got like angry at me. And I was like, "That's our thing. You can't take that away from us." Talking about. Let's do it. It is Sunday, March 8th, 2020, and you are listening to the Irrational Passions podcast. I am Alex O'Neill, your host for this podcasting adventure we are embarking on, back from Boston, back from PAX East, and joining me this week, as always, Mr. Scott Guthier, Tony Horvath,
That's it.
Brian Nobishin Jackson.
And when you're face down on the mat and you look up above, you will remember the name of Go Dust.
And as that was our per quota wrestling reference, we have Mr. Jarrett Green here as well.
Goldust was great. What an important character.
I know, right?
People like imagine, if you will, it's the 1990s. Really, I guess the late 80s, but really the 1990s. And you're trying to find a way to entice the crowd again, get them shocking and awing again.
Mm-hmm.
Since you're problematic, the first thing you do is say, "We need a villain." Who do people cringe at? Homoerotic things. So let's go 100%. Let's go a little too. Let's do a little too much. Let's paint my face. I'm 6'6". I'm gonna wear a head to toe lycra bodysuit that's gold. I'm gonna come out with a glittery robe. And what if I just made my entire gimmick for the next 6 or 8 months sexually harassing people?
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable thing to latch on to. Totally.
Work like a charm.
Shattered Dreams.
Shattered
Man
Dream.
love movies, probably porn.
Shattered Dreams is like he puts you against the rope, he'll spread your legs, and then he'll kick you in the balls. That's his finisher move.
Jesus Christ.
Goldust.
The only thing I know about Goldust is one time on an episode of My Brother and Me, Griffin McElroy had a very funny bit that he was secretly haunted by Goldust. And he pretended that Goldust was attacking him while he was recording the podcast. And
What's the new Goldust? Stardust? Is he
No,
still with them?
Stardust is his brother, Cody Rhodes. So Dustin Rhodes Goldust is the son of Dusty Rhodes.
Right.
His brother, Cody Rhodes, is like 15, 20 years like younger than him. So they're brothers, but like they've had such a weird relationship because they're basically like completely different people from completely different time periods. But on Cody's way out of this former company, he wanted to work with his brother, and this was what they gave him. They're like, why don't you just be something like your brother but different? So he was Stardust. He was just as creepy.
I see. This is why I invite Jarrett on the show, is just that Namish and Jarrett can talk about wrestling, and then Scott, Tony, and I can just take a break for a little bit. We'll take a little siesta.
Yeah, pretty much.
Jarrett, you're here to talk about video games.
I've played those.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in for the first time, thank you for coming and hanging out. Rational Patches Podcast. We talk about video games here. We are typically live every Saturday night, around 7 p.m. Eastern time, and the post of the episode, edited and delightful and a little bit shorter, comes out on Tuesdays. So, if you're listening, if you're watching, either way, I appreciate you. Let's talk real quick, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the games we've been playing. A lot of stuff happened on irrationalpatches.com because there was PAX that happened last week. There was no normal episode of this podcast last week. Instead, we on this very audio feed, you can listen to day 1, 2, and 3 of our kind of like preview coverage of PAX East. It's me and the writing folk sitting down just one-on-one talking about the games we played. Good response from those, so it seems like people really liked them, which I appreciate. But there was a bunch of other stuff that posted as well. We have some videos of us having one-on-one conversations from the show floor. Mike and I did one on like the Pathless. Scott and I did one on Greek, Memories of Azure. I don't think there's a video for that, but you can still listen to it. Scott and Jarrett, you guys talked about Shovel Knight Dig. And there's a couple other written things that have kind of gone up, and there will be a couple more that go up throughout this coming week. Generally, most of all the PAX stuff, all the big stuff is out there now, though, if you want to go check it out. I feel really good about all the stuff that we did. If you wanted to hear also the panel, the PAX East panel, best and worst and most annoying tropes in RPGs, is out. You can listen to it. We filled the room. It was very exciting. I was very nervous the whole time, sweating bullets, but I had a fun time. And thanks to everybody that showed up. If you're listening, if you're a lot of new fans like showed up there, a lot of people have never heard of us before. So if you're just coming in, listening to the show, just checking it out.
Intro.
Yeah, it is. What an intro they got. They were like, man, there's a podcast where they talk about gold dust for 20 minutes. It was a lot of fun, and if you want to relive the magic, you can go listen to the audio of the panel. I think it came out all right. I haven't finished listening to it yet, but it sounds like it came out all right. It's about an hour long. It's on the RPG University feed. At some point, I'm going to make sure that there's like a post for that. We might post it in this audio feed and the IP Presents one as well. So, anything from PAX that you wanted to highlight in particular, Jarrett?
Not specifically. I was way more happy with our content strategy this year than in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we were wasting like precious time trying to produce like previews rapidly, especially written ones, where really the essence is we wanted to highlight these games and talk about like a few key things that we thought were good. And I think you can do that the same way and possibly better by just literally talking to someone who was there. And I feel like the videos are way more engageable, yada, yada, yada. So I was happy that A, both we decided that was going to be our focus, and B, that they have been engaged with pretty well.
Yeah, we did it, and
the returns are pretty good.
People seem to like it, so yeah. There's one-on-one. The day 2 and day 3 podcast recaps that we recorded, we got a little wild on those ones. Some Lucifer was talked about a lot.
A little bit.
I learned a lot about angels and demons. I left that recording session a far more educated individual.
And isn't that what we want to do? We just
Yeah.
want to educate the people about Satan.
Yeah, exactly. About the homie Satan.
Yeah, about the homie Satan.
But no, yeah, it was fun, and we did this year for the first time. We did editors pick awards where we like had like little poster board printouts of like the Irrational Passions logo in like a new font that Scott White made. It looks super awesome, and we actually gave that to 6 games on the show floor, one for each of the editors that were there. Jerry, you picked Raji. I picked Spiritfarer. But there's a like collective post on like all of our individual picks with a little write up from each of us that I really like. So you can also go check that out. I would say that's the one thing I want to highlight. If you want to see like the 6 best things that each of us thought were like the standouts, those were the standouts. Spiritfarer, I sent like an email to them afterwards, just talking about like, hey, like I experienced a pretty recent and pretty severe loss, and like this game is about loss, it's about death. It really moved me, and they just had a very lovely response. So yeah, it was really cool to kind of like award developers, to like thank them in person, and it turned into like this awkward like shuffle of all like 5 of the 6 of us like shuffling around the floor handing out these awards and like thanking people profusely, and it was awkward but wholesome and very sweet. So yeah, it was fun. But we're back
Is
from
that a thing at PAX? 'Cause I know that's a thing at E3. I don't
it is like it's a much less of a thing, but it still happens. So like Spiritfarer, or not Spiritfarer, She Dreams Elsewhere was one of the Pop Agenda like PR games. It's like a really cool like adventure, like Undertale-esque RPG. So it's like takes a lot from Earthbound and those vibes. Really cool art style. They had a standout on one of theirs that was not ours, and I saw a couple other ones for some of the bigger games. I think Final Fantasy VII had like 2 next to it, and I was like, all right, we get it. Like, listen, I'm here, I'm with you, but like I'm trying to award other things. Like I think Final Fantasy VII is gonna be fucking fine. So yeah, you'll see it every now and again. It was the first time we had done it, and it was more of like hey, if we go to E3, we want to do these and a best of show. But E3 is probably not going to happen at this point, so I'm not super stressed about it anymore. So we'll see. But it was cool to just try it out as a thing to try.
And like not everyone was completely confused when you walked up to them and was like, we're having you this award. Some of them were like, oh, I like awards.
Yeah, a lot of them
Some were like,
were confused.
Oh, I didn't know what to do. What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, it's like you don't have to put it up, but all of them did, which was very sweet. When I was like walking around the last day and saw all 6 of those up on those booths, was like, oh, this is cool. I think that maybe the Pathless one didn't go up because we didn't want to desecrate the very
Well, I think
cool booth.
to be fair, that Annapurna booth was like hard to navigate.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room to hang it up. But now we're back from Boston to talk about games, maybe some stuff that we missed, maybe not. So let's talk about video games. We had a week off because I was away. Scott, Guthier, I want to fucking start with you, my friend. What you been playing?
Not too much different.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
More Tarkov.
Tarkov's still treating you well?
Yeah.
Okay. Just make sure.
Yeah, not too many updates since then. Some bug fixes, some stuff in the works that we're excited about.
Mm-hmm. Such as?
Yeah, I'll let you know about those when I can play that.
Okay, cool. That's fair with me. Tony, are you still on the Tarkov train as well?
Nope.
Oh, you're off.
Yeah, I'm not playing that until the wipe happens.
Are
I'm saving it for that, you know.
Are they wiping progress?
Yeah, they will continue to do that for the entire lifespan of the game.
Okay. Got to keep it interesting, keep it spicy. But yeah, do we know when that will happen, or is it just like one of the updates coming?
It's kind of whenever they put an update out that is big enough to warrant them wiping progress, which will be like when the next major update, pretty much, which they've said could be up to like 4 months old.
Dang.
Well, that was like a month ago. So who knows? Really, it's who knows.
Sure.
But we haven't experienced. And apparently that's the best time to play. It's because like right now the game is go in with massive gear and then just try and find people to fight. And everybody's just doing that, which is fine if you want like Call of Duty. But there's no reason for us to loot anything anymore. You know.
Yeah.
There's no hook other than just playing a deathmatch. So I'm down. Like Tarkov is fun, but I want to play it when resources are scarce again.
Yeah, totally. I get you.
And that's not to say that I don't like playing with. I like to play with gear, but it's less fun to play with gear when there's no stakes in the gear that I have.
Yeah, you're not building
I'm not,
anything either.
I'm not building anything. I'm not like worried about losing gear or anything like that. So it just kind of makes it so I just run in because I can. And that's not like the way I want to play that game. And it's less fun for me when there's no stakes involved. So, yeah.
Sure. Totally. Anything else you've been playing, Scott?
Not really.
Okay.
Luigi's Mansion's on hold.
Yeah. Have you finished it yet?
No, I said it's on hold.
Oh, it's on hold. Okay. Soon.
It's coming off hold,
Mm.
but it was on hold for a little bit.
Okay. I'm excited for it to come off hold because Luigi's Mansion. As someone I still haven't finished that. I gotta go back and finish it, but like I want to know what you think of the kind of tail end of that game. I've heard it's really cool. So, all right, Tony. What about you? Anything outside of Tarkov for you? You said you had a wild card for me. So
Well, so I've been playing this mobile game Arknights, right?
yes,
And
familiar.
It's been pretty sweet. Still playing that, still good, but right now it's kind of in a content drought where like all of the content that was available in this version of the game on release, we're done with at this point. So I'm kind of just waiting for the next big thing in that game, and I've already kind of like farmed enough units for it to matter. But in that time, I started watching this particular streamer, goes by the name of Tectone, small streamer, who does mobile games content. And I was watching all of his Arknight stuff. I was watching his streams on Twitch playing Arknights, and he was talking about this new mobile game that came out or was coming out earlier this week called Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this.
So I literally just downloaded that this morning.
Yeah, great. So I'm about 100 hours in.
God damn.
And let me tell you, the game is really good by mobile game standards. Like really. But this game is different than Arknights in that like Arknights it's a gacha game that you are doing, like you go into a mission and do a thing. And that's awesome because you're doing like little tower defenses, but the concept behind Grand Cross is completely different in that it's got PvP. So it's got replayability and there's shit you can, a lot of different stuff. Just gameplay is made by PvP, so there's a lot, you don't run out of shit to do when you're out of content. But yeah, it's been pretty fucking cool so far.
What did you heard about it, Jarrett? That it was lit?
A friend of mine, I have a group of friends who all play Exvius together. So like every once in a while, someone's like looking out for something else because that's just how these things work. Because there's never too much gacha, I guess, for a single human.
Never enough.
And it had been like I hadn't watched the anime, which apparently there's an anime.
Me either. I haven't watched it either, and let me tell you right now, don't fucking.
So I was like, I don't know, I don't know that this is for me, but just out from a whim, my friend Kevin said he was like having a really good time with it, and it's like very much different than he remembers experiencing from like mobile games, because he's like not necessarily new to gacha, but like the mobile games he plays all sort of are formatted the same way, and it's like this is something completely different, and I think it's worth everybody's time at least a little bit. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll download
even if
it.
you don't like mobile games or gacha games, this is the gacha game of 2020.
Okay.
I went through the tutorial, and I played like the first, I guess, set of missions, and it is like, so I'm of two minds of it because I don't know how it plays when you're trying to just farm stuff, because I haven't gotten to like the level where I'm just looking for stuff, but like there's a whole lot of game to play here. Like
Yes, dude.
the
There's so much game here.
the combat itself is like oddly sophisticated in a way that I wasn't expecting. Like characters have abilities, but depending on how those abilities are dealt to you and like cards can depend on and their position in line, it can determine if they like turn into extra level, like higher level cards, and there's like combos and shit. Like this game is doing way more than you would expect a game like this to do.
That's cool.
And it's really engaging in that way, really interesting in that way. I just don't know, like, if I'm just trying to like check in, do a daily, and leave, like, is that possible? Like, or do I have to sit down and like really like aggressively
get
like,
into something,
be, like, engaged in this game?
Mm-hmm.
So it goes both ways.
I assume there are probably things that you could do that are quick.
There's auto battle in this game, right?
Okay.
So that will do most of your farming for you. And furthermore, there is not only auto battle, but there is also, hey, keep repeating this stage until I tell you to stop repeating the stage.
Okay.
Oh, you can, so it just auto loops, like this repeats.
Yeah, it loops the stage on auto battle, so that is how most of your farming will stay.
That's cool.
So but on the other hand, especially for some of the events and the story missions, auto battle is not available. You have to play it yourself. And as he said, he's been playing for about 100 hours. Now, to be perfectly fair, most of those hours is him leaving it overnight.
Hell yeah, dude. It's my boy, Tony. Making me proud.
The game came out this week, so a good chunk of that time is him just going through those non-auto battle missions.
Hell yeah.
He has to play.
And they're like engaging, they're interesting, like you feel like the want to keep playing because you think it's a cool game, I imagine.
Yeah.
Tony.
And then there's
Scott.
PvP in the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then there's also some co-op stuff.
I'm curious, have the folks that made this made anything else?
I don't know. I know what they are. It's called Netmarble.
Netmarble, like, so it's weird when it comes to sort of gacha games, because a lot of these places are both publisher and developer, but like lots of big mobile development teams, you know, the team that makes one game isn't necessarily the team that makes a bunch of the other ones. So
sure.
Like there are games like this, like there's a Marvel licensed game that's similar to this.
Yeah, Future Fight. I think one of my coworkers
is also
plays
a
this.
Netmarble game, but like who's to say like whose hands were on what? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like curious if they have or the company or the publisher have like a kind of history of making games like this, just to see if this is like maybe they stumbled into refinement of like an idea that they had, or if like they've been working toward a really good mobile title.
I don't know if Netmarble has made a game that plays like this, but they've definitely made games that are like these sort of turn-based, almost like JRPG-ish things. If they did make a game that was like a prototype to this, it's probably some license that never left Japan. I couldn't tell you, or China. But this is the first game I've played that is like a Future Fight-ish sort of like RPG that plays this way. So I don't know if this is like just a brand new concept, or just like this is the first game that uses this concept and also has a big like IP behind it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's funny too, because like Seven Deadly Sins is one of those. It's licensed in the U.S. by Netflix, so I don't have a good point of reference for how big it is, right? I don't. It's hard to say. I imagine big enough that it merited like getting a third or fourth season or whatever. So, but I don't know what that looks like in Japan. I don't know who licensed it in Japan, if it's like one of the bigger companies. So it's a kind of out of nowhere game for it to be as well received as it is. So that's cool. It's good vibes. Anything else you've been playing, Tony? Or any other vibes you have for Grand Cross?
All that, dude. That's it.
Any other thoughts or feelings on it? Like I imagine like a lot of the kind of like what Scott said, a lot of the time was like auto battle stuff, but do you know how much time you've maybe like put in by hand on yourself on this game?
Yeah, like maybe 10% of what I'm talking about is farming over.
Okay, so like 90 hours then you've put in. That's impressive. That's cool. Well then, I'll let Seven Deadly
Yeah.
Sins continue to consume your entire. That is, you did blindside me that with that one. But I had heard it. I saw people tweeting about like apparently like this was actually a pretty cool mobile game. So it's good to hear that reinforced. Nabashin, what video games? Is it time to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo? I feel like we've kept the people waiting long enough.
No. Let's talk about Seven Deadly Sins some more.
Okay, so blah blah. Something. What are the 7 deadly sins? Did you find them?
So you play your main character is the leader of them, and apparently they've been scattered since events in the anime, and you're trying to like unite with one of them each chapter, and then they come back to help you out with your goals.
Okay.
That you go through, and then you can kind of transition that into building up your characters and do like co-op raids and shit, which is pretty sweet.
Okay.
And cool. The other thing I did want to mention about Seven Deadly Sins is that a lot of people, when you think about a gacha game, think about like, you got to be a huge fucking whale to be able to play this game efficiently, because you got to buy so much shit, and all of this stuff is way mad overpriced because it's a cash grab, right? Does this sound like gacha gaming shit to you? Because it should.
Yes.
And this game is so ridiculously generous with its currency that you can easily get hundreds and hundreds of gems for free. And people, what you literally will, like in the week since it's out, you get like 500 gems for free, and summoning 11 characters costs 30.
Damn.
So it's like super accessible, and there are like renewable ways of keeping that kind of crazy income going. So there's a lot of cool stuff going for that game that makes it interesting. So definitely give it a shot, people.
It's nice that when the pressure's off, right? Because then you feel better about like supporting the thing and putting your time into it, right? Of like, okay, now if I do spend a couple bucks here, like, I feel really good about it because of all the stuff that I just got to do, like the 100 hours that you get to play unabated for $0. So yeah, that is cool. All right, Nabashin, it's time. You've stalled long enough. Don't try and run from this. Video games. What have you been playing?
Not too much, really.
Where are you at in Mass Effect? I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just curious what the word on that one was.
Just finishing all the side mission. I did like every important thing so far. So just to bring down the Sky DLC, the Percival Station DLC, and just a couple of side missions, and then that'll all be done. And then I'll just do Ilos, and then that'll be the end of the game.
Nice. That Bring Down the Sky DLC is actually really good. I feel like it doesn't get talked about a lot, but obviously Mass Effect has a lot of very good DLC. Each game has at least one, and I think Bring Down the Sky is really cool.
It introduces the Batarians, which is like the I always call them the assholes of the galaxy. Like nobody likes the Batarians.
Yes.
Everyone hates the Batarians. Like it's just what that game is, or what those. Unfortunately, to say this way, like those people are in that universe. Like no one likes Batarians, and like I always thought, like eventually we'll get to a point where a Batarian will be on your team, and like in one of the sequels, I thought like that'd be an interesting dynamic because like everyone hates Batarians. Batarians obviously don't like humans. Shepard just killed like a whole bunch of Batarians at one of the DLCs for 2. So like I thought in 3, like it was like, oh sure, a Batarian's gonna be on your team, like a new character for sure, and it never happened. So
yeah, it's a bummer, missed opportunity.
Nah, man, fuck those guys.
Proliferating the negative message.
And like real talk, if like you really think about it, like around Andromeda's time, like obviously they weren't transported with them when they went to Andromeda, so like I'm pretty sure that whole race is dead.
Yeah, it's possible.
Like you see, I forget his name, like Balak or Bayak or something like that. I think it's Bayak. If like you let him live through that DLC in 3, so like he's like one of the few Batarians that you see, and like you see the rest of them on the Citadel Station, but like you're talking like maybe like
a few hundred,
if even that.
Yeah,
I would say less than 100, maybe 50. Like it's like.
But there are a lot of refugees on the Citadel too, so it's possible.
And the Citadel's so huge, and you kind of forget that sometimes.
Yeah. So
You
it's
notice
possible.
that aspect 1, but the sequels you kind of forget how
Yeah.
big the Citadel really is.
Because it's always just like the skybox in the background of like the actual 5 arcs of the 5 different cities basically that exist on that whole platform. So, just give us a detective game where you play a gumshoe detective and it's open world Citadel, and that's it. That's all. That would have been a good Mass Effect sequel.
They did that. They did that with Jacob
Yeah.
on the phone game.
But like a real one with like good characters.
I'm joking too. I know they did something like that, but
So
I think it was a
what you're
comic book
saying-
series.
What you're saying is you want Citadel Noir from Rockstar.
Hell, that would be awesome. Don't get me started, Scott. Oh, I'm sweating now. Woo!
Yeah.
See, we shouldn't pitch TV show video games like we did in bonus content. We should just pitch other video games. More video games. Okay, what else have you been playing, Albushin?
I haven't really been playing anything else. Like I tried out Vanquish on PC, and I made it 144 frames per second, and that broke the game. So I stopped playing that Vanquish on PC. It didn't break the game, but like certain things, like you kind of like when like Kingdom Hearts 2 is like in 60 frames per second, like break sequences and like characters go through walls because they're not supposed to be that fast. That's how kind of what happened in Vanquish.
Excellent.
So yeah.
But did you feel powerful when you were doing it though?
No, I honestly didn't notice 144 frames. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like compared to like what I can notice from 60 frames, like it might just be like an a visual thing or something I'm not used to.
It's weird.
like-
Once you go above 60, it's diminishing returns in my opinion.
It's so interesting because like you talk to me like at the beginning of like at probably like at the beginning of 2004. Like I couldn't tell you what 60 frames per second was. Like just like by looking at it, I was like, no, that's fine. I could look at Metal Gear Solid 4. Yeah, that's fine. Even though that game was like 15 frames per second. Like it's
But it's like also unlocked at some point, so it like runs really smooth, then runs really bad. It's all over
Yeah.
the place.
yeah. And like I haven't played Metal Gear Solid 4 in a while, but like this is just remembering how that game runs now. Like it's something I remember, but I don't remember at the same time. It's like a visual memory of like me playing a game, it going slow and me not being affected, but now me remembering it. It's like, oh man, that game chugs at some point.
Yeah, it's all over the map. Still can report, but it's still great. That game's still great.
Yeah. Make it PS5 compatible.
Yeah, I'm just saying. How many more conversations we have to have about this stuff? It's like 2-hour long conversations about this already. Please, just do it for us. If nothing else, do it for Nabushin. Let's put all the PlayStation games in one place, please. It may never happen. Okay, so nothing really outside, but I know you did play the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo.
Yeah, I wanted to quickly mention Dragon Ball FighterZ. So.
Oh yeah, you've been having a great time with that recently, right?
Yeah, season 3. That game's been really insane lately as far as like the number of options that you have now, and like just the way like some of the things they fixed for the better, a lot better actually. Like just like the variance and like not it's not just like depending on like 3 characters, which was like protagonist, aka Super Saiyan Goku, or GT Goku or Bardock or Kid Buu. Like there's like you can have like actual options and use actual different characters, and like some work in various different ways, and like some are just like really good. Like and it's like you always knew they were good, but like the game, like you could say like the game was holding it back. Like you're like they just didn't really make any sense, and like unless like you really like the characters, like there's no like you wouldn't play them like as far as season 2, as far as like Dragon Ball FighterZ, like if you like the straight up, if you didn't have GT Goku on your team, like then you just didn't want to win. You didn't want to win a match. You just wanted to play the game, basically. Like I really like Videl. Like she's cool, but like you're not. It's not something you that's not a character you use to like beat somebody.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean that's just season 2 was like when GT Goku showed up, like that changed everything. Like cause like he was so OP, just because like the height, like buddies didn't really work with him. Like he was harder to hit. Like you try to do combos, like he'll get out the combos because he's so small, and like just like how strong he is. Like he gets so much. He got so many buffs from like when this is like a 3 character versus series. Like you know, if you pick 3 characters, it go gets 3 other characters. Like if one of the other characters die, he gets a little buff. Where like he'll turn Super Saiyan 4 when he does his level 3 and stuff like that. So
Oh,
like
that's cool. I didn't know they incorporated Super Saiyan 4 into that. That makes me feel better about it.
You know what they really need to do?
mhm.
Just make those types of hitboxes the same.
Yeah, just make him get hit.
Make a corny joke. Make a corny meta joke to explain it all away, and just do it.
Yeah, just let them be like tall people even though they're short.
But they fixed a lot of that stuff. Like with season 3, which is that's made it really fun. Like tall characters aren't the burden that they used to be, and just the general mix up because like with the assist that you can do now, like you can actually choose your assist compared to like having just a one assist and that being it. And like buffing certain characters like Beerus, like a character who's like had potential, but like no one who's really playing seriously would ever really use them. Now people can use them now. That's like for a lot of the characters, like not that he was like bad before, but like Base Vegeta is like the big standout of this season, like for sure. As far as like his mix ups, like his mix ups are always there, but like no one really used them or found them really viable at the time, unless you like really like the character, because like he's just like the most flashiest shit, and like it was just like super cool to see him play, but like no one really used him, and now like there's the season 3 that's the character to use. Like he's so cool, he's so much fun. But yeah, like I don't want to talk too much about it just because like I haven't really actually played it. Like I played Kepler when she was out. I did my challenges like I usually do because that's how I enjoy these games mostly. Like I don't ever go against anybody because like there's no one really around my area, and like I personally can't stand online. Just in general. There used to be a time where I could play fighting games online, but like
The heyday, as they call it, the golden age.
well, like it's like me with like frame rates, right? Like I never noticing delay, which I noticed like back in the PS3 era, like delays when I played fighting games. Like it was fine when I was playing Street Fighter 4, but then like it just got to the point where like around like Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition or something like that, like I just couldn't stand like delays anymore. Like delays just like really just kill that shit for me. So like I just don't play games online anymore. And if I really wanted to, I could play Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct online, but like those aren't my fighting games. So like
yeah,
I don't play those.
Less of what you're into, totally.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like all the changes they've made, and it's cool seeing that game like be. It's because it's not just you tweeting about it. I see a lot of, or at least a handful of other fighting game folks that I follow. They're like, oh, I did this and this and that, and what they've changed and how they've kept that game relevant. It's still gonna be Evo, right? It's still 3 years in a row.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's really cool. It's just again, Arc System Works in the limelight where they deserve. With a really cool licensed game that I think that they're doing just such justice to. So,
in a way, Arc System Works is like they're carrying the fighting game torch as of right now. Since Capcom hasn't really like came back as far as that. Like, if anything, Capcom's making it slightly like worse.
Yeah, totally.
For a while. I think they're really anxious just to like bury Street Fighter 5 and just like get to the next thing because like
totally.
Street Fighter 5 has
it's got too much baggage and it's just not as well received.
And them trying to improve it hasn't really been the best thing either. Quote unquote improve.
Yeah, I think like the thing is I know, especially seeing how many like younger creative people that have really great ideas are just making cool stuff at Capcom right now. Like I know for a fact that they've got a good Street Fighter or even a good Marvel vs. Capcom in them. It's just getting there, and it's just the right time, the right director, the right team.
It's really like if anything, like this generation has been showing as of late with like Breath of the Wild and Devil May Cry. No, not Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry. That's like Return.
Monster Hunter World.
Monster Hunter World. But basically what I'm saying, like Splatoon 2, like there's a new guard that's coming. Resident Evil 2. There's a new guard as far as like it's becoming to the point where like the people who are fans of these series when they were younger are now becoming like big wigs at these companies now, and like directors is actually like making the games, and Final Fantasy VII is the evidence of this as well, where it's like the new blood is actually like making this like refreshing and like and they're doing the job as far as like making like this is how I remember this game being, but I also like implementing this in a new way type of thing, where it's like where it becomes fresh again. But it also seems familiar at the same time, and like that's what's really been like revitalizing a lot of things in Japan lately. It seems like with like games like that are coming back, I should say, not like with newer games.
But it's really cool. It like that's like I think the dividends of like Japan's kind of more traditional workplace mentality, right? Of like these people that kind of get into or like follow the lead of kind of idols and heroes and role models that work with them, learn from them, and then carry the torch forward. Because like it's happened obviously all across the board at Nintendo, like Mario Odyssey and I think Animal Crossing New Horizons. A lot of that is happening there. But you're right. But like Capcom is such a huge bastion of that. Some folks at Square Enix, carrying that torch, or the new blood that kind of refreshed Kingdom Hearts 3, I think, for me and for some other folks. So yeah, totally. It's really cool. Japanese video games may be in like a second renaissance right now, which is awesome.
Like if I were like to give like a suggestion of like how they could like probably improve their fighting game division, because like that's like the Achilles heel of like Capcom right now, like because they're doing like almost everything else right. It's just their fighting game division is just kind of like sucking right now. Is like the way I think about it is like they need to bring back some of the old guard, like Isuna-san. Like Isuna-san, he did something like Isuno did Third Strike. He did Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. He also did Power Stone.
And
he recently did Devil May Cry 5 after not doing it since 4. So like him bringing that back revitalized Devil May Cry. So I'm thinking if they could bring him back for like something like the next Capcom fighting game, I think that'd be really good. Maybe not Street Fighter, because like Street Fighter's like in a weird place right now where it's like at least I think like it's too many things. Like it's like it's holding like too many pillars, I feel like, because like it's the poster child for fighting games. So like which was like the thing I think that really like brought down Street Fighter 5, honestly, was where it's like they couldn't make that game interesting in a way because like it has to be complied to like their esports agenda. So like all the characters, though they may look cool and like may have like well, they don't really look that cool because like they look dated. They look dated back in 2016, but like wow, we're talking about this for a long time. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm fascinated right now.
But like I feel like
Street Fighter's not the game to make. I agree with you. I feel like I've heard a lot of Capcom versus new Capcom versus conversations.
I mean, Street Fighter is the game to make it. Like it still has to be that. It still has to be the fighting game. I guess you would say.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree. Like I think that Street Fighter just needs time off. Like I think Street Fighter 4 hit as hard as it did because there was so much time between 3 and 4. And like if they keep pushing, if they just push into a new Street Fighter or Street Fighter 6, and they just try and do what they did with 5 again of like, hey, we're gonna do it again but better. I just think it's just gonna blow up in their face. And I think if that same team that would make that game made something smaller, I think it would help the morale of making something bigger again. I think just something more focused, like a Darkstalkers, I think would be really cool or something like that.
But like the thing about stuff like that is like that's not like it's kind of like how Mortal Kombat is like as big as it is now. Like they need Street Fighter because like that's the game that people want.
Mm-hmm.
Like despite whatever shit Street Fighter is going to have in their games, like it's still their Call of Duty, I guess you would say. Like it's not as far as like something annualized, but like it's their face, it's their branding. It's like it's the thing that like
it'll sell units.
It's when you think fighting games, you think Street Fighter. When you think first person shooter, you think Call of Duty. It's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the real problem with Street Fighter 5 was like the netcode, obviously, but that hopefully gets addressed by the next game. And the characters weren't all that interesting because like it was for esports, so like they have to make them as balanced as possible. So like in a sense, they have to make them as boring as possible as far as what they can do, and like they make it balanced. And like the interesting thing about fighting games is like is finding those imbalances and like making the meta, and like that's what makes it interesting, and like how to deal with certain characters and stuff like that. And that's why you have like counter characters and stuff like that. The counter like this one, you got Ryu, I'm gonna pick all type of thing.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
will say though, if I could,
Please.
I think there's two kind of conversations that happen about Street Fighter V. We have a conversation about Street Fighter V from a perspective that kind of makes it an unfair conversation. In the way that Street Fighter V is not as hype as, I mean, Fighter Z at least, but also maybe even Tekken. Like people aren't as excited to watch Street Fighter V as they are like some other top games. But I mean, last year at Evo, it was still the most like entered game that wasn't Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Like Smash, like 4,000 or 3,500 people registered for Smash Brothers, but the next highest register count was Street Fighter V. People still play this game. The Capcom Pro Tour is still the biggest fighting games tournament, or I guess series on Earth. Like it's bigger than the Combat Cast or the Combat League, whatever NHS or NetherRealm's doing over there. It's still the premier one-on-one 2D fighter. It just isn't the king we thought it would be, but it's still the king. I think is the important thing to say.
Yeah.
But also, I think to the Street Fighter 4 point, remember Street Fighter 4 came out in 2008. This is before the first League of Legends World Championship.
True.
Which is where like professional esports as a marketable thing started, in my opinion. So 2011 is when people looked at esports and was like, oh, people are going to watch this like 40 million at a time on the internet. Everybody changed their strategy to how to be more esports friendly from that point forward. So Street Fighter 4 was not designed in that. Street Fighter 5 was designed in that, but so was every other fighting game since, basically.
Yeah.
So the competition was completely different. The landscape was completely different. To Capcom's, I guess, to sort of Capcom's defense, what they were doing to try to make Street Fighter 5 a viable, watchable sort of platform for games that can be accessible and can create new stars is what a lot of fighting game developers were also trying to do. I think what really sucked for Capcom and what still sucks is they're still kind of off the back foot. That game launched with like zero content and really bad netcode that has plagued them since. Even now, like there's so much content that it's ridiculous, but we still think about this game in a certain way and it's never changed. But I think it's important for us to put it in perspective. Like it's easy, and rightfully so. We should be criticizing Capcom for the game they made and for all the ways that game isn't what it could have been. But I think it's important to also acknowledge what it is, and it still is kind of like it still is a giant in fighting games, which is why the next Capcom fighting game might be a versus game, but that doesn't mean you'll never see Street Fighter again. Yeah. Even if that means Street Fighter 5 is just the thing you play now, that's still going to be there. It'll be their key sort of crownstone game until they make another one that they can't deny. Like if they do make a versus game and people just like super attach themselves to that and that becomes bigger than Street Fighter, then they'll think about Street Fighter 6. Otherwise, this is the game they have and this is the game they're backing.
Yeah. I think, I more mean that there will inevitably be a Street Fighter 6 to replace current Street Fighter 5. But in the meantime, in the interim, maybe it would be a good opportunity to try other things and to try and revitalize fighting games through a different avenue instead of kind of beating the same dead horse. Not dead horse, but... I
think they're the dead horse guys. I think I think they need to make these games because as as wacky and weird and interesting as Arc Systems games are, they're not making games that are just standard like fighting games. They're making weird shit.
Yeah.
And if there kind of always has to be a baseline, and I feel like Street Fighter is always that baseline, even if it isn't, like, even if we kind of roll our eyes at it and consider it like a sign of the times that like Street Fighter always feels this way, where all these other new exciting things are happening. I think it's important that, you know, Street Fighter keeps that context for us. Like, having a Street Fighter exist is what makes the Grand Blue versus seem so strange, because it's everything Street Fighter isn't. But
yeah,
that doesn't mean it's going to be a game everyone wants to play instead of Street Fighter.
Like, for context, like you know, I think Dragon Ball Fighters is like the only Arc System game that's ever broken 1 million. Like, like their games don't really sell that way, and like they adjust for that. Like, they don't really have too many physical boxes. They're mostly push it for digital, and people buy it that way. And like they'll be like if they break 100 million, but like, you know, because it's catering to like a niche of a niche. Because fighting games are niche, and now you're getting to like anime fighters, which are like even like nicher than that. So like
that are usually super mechanically dense. Like there is no harder game to play than Guilty Gear. And even then, Strive is being set up to maybe be the next one that breaks 1 million. But I don't know that Grand Blue is the one that's going to break 1 million.
No way.
Their Persona game, I don't think even that broke 1 million, even with all the the momentum behind it. Like, so they are making the weird stuff, and we can't like, unless someone else comes out and makes the next like
weird thing,
like, or not even weird thing, makes the next like even ground level. This is the new Street Fighter. Then Street Fighter will always do that game, and Capcom will always be responsible for making sure they have that game. I don't know who steps up and makes the next Street Fighter, because it isn't going to be NetherRealm, because they would rather make what they're making, because that makes sense for them. Again, another niche inside a niche. And I mean, Namco has been running the Tekken wave forever, and they're super excited to do that.
I don't think Riot's fighting game will be that either. So
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we'll see, because Riot has a whole different market for Riot.
It's true. But I think it'll be big. I just don't know if it'll be that big. That's like such a standard.
I don't know that it will be, but I think that's going to be the first really interesting like attempt to test Capcom's like real gangster these days.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And this is a quick thing about NetherRealm is like they're the ones who always make millions on their games, because like they're like they cater to the casual audience for the most part, and like for the hardcore audience is like well they could like NetherRealm's games are literally the only fighting games that cater to both casuals and to hardcore as well. So like it's a niche, but like it's the niche that sells the millions. They always sell more than Street Fighter.
Yeah, Ed Boon found it like when they brought this back, especially after Injustice happened, and they kind of created a cadence there. Like,
oh yeah,
they found this weird crossover, and you know this is the game that made Sonic Fox a star, which also is something NetherRealm can't like not also call a victory.
Yeah, totally.
Because he's out here winning like very public awards, being a very very influential like person of color and queer face in video games, and all on the back of a NetherRealm game. So the Ed Boon and co are in their own lane in that too. So without Street Fighter, there is no baseline of fighting games, and nobody else out here is attempting to step in that realm.
Yeah, the story and conversation of like how NetherRealms turned it all around with Mortal Kombat 9. That's an interesting conversation to have another day, because we have to talk about Final Fantasy VII.
I started when I wrote an article that said something like that for IGN a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Totally. Your first IGN piece. I was so excited when you sent me that pitch. I was like, yes, send this to the big boys. Send it to them. That was, I think, July 2015 or something like that. Does that sound right?
2015 to 2014, because I think that's when Mortal Kombat 10 was reviewed or like released, or not released, revealed for the first time.
Sure. Did you have another Mortal Kombat related piece on IGN? Or am I hallucinating that?
No, I think the other Mortal Kombat related piece was on Irrational Passion.
Yeah. A very good one about the kind of change of how those characters look to be actually representative of where they come from.
Right, they're not just white dudes dressed up as like Asian tropes. Some of these they've kind of ethnically recast some of these people.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Final Fantasy VII remake demo. What did you think of it, Nobishin?
That was fine.
I
loved it. It was great.
It was okay. Yeah, it was. Man, I can't. So I did a thing where I tortured my roommate, my best friend Damien. I was like, all right, I want you to check out a demo. I didn't tell him what it was. Because he had never really, he had heard of Final Fantasy VII. I'll tell you what he said once we get to that moment. But like, I sat him down, we were just hanging out, had some pizza, put the controller in his hand, made him close his eyes. I'm like, I'm gonna hit start. And I want you to go in blind and just play through the demo, and I'm just gonna hang out here and watch you do it. And it was so fun just to watch someone, as someone who loves Final Fantasy VII and has for years and years and years, play it with my mom. Is like a bond that I had with her about it. It was like one of the first first RPGs I ever played. Probably that's how like Pokemon it was the first one. So it was like a very special thing to me. But just watching him, like he didn't really realize what it was. But when the title music started playing, the logo popped up. He's like, "Oh, cool!" As I had joked, I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna play Final Fantasy 14." I was like, "No, we're not. This is something else." He was like, "Is this the one with Sephiroth in it?" And that's all he knew about.
Right again.
It's all he knew about Final Fantasy 7. I was like, yes, this is the one with Sephiroth. I'm so proud. But you know, he played through, and like seeing him like really like the dichotomy between Cloud and Barrett, and Barrett, the Aerith Barrett weird fusion child. Seeing him react to like how Cloud is like too cool, because he's like, I kept saying like, isn't Cloud like the coolest dude? He's like, yeah, but I bet he's really lonely. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. So the next day, because he got to the boss and he couldn't beat it, because he wasn't good at like he liked playing it like an action game. I was like, you got to use your items more. So the next day we sat down and I showed him the original Final Fantasy VII. We played through the first 20 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to torture you for the next hour, so just put your phone away, because this is me cashing in my friend points. And then I played through the demo again with him, and I pointed out all the little things, all the references, and I made him like actually listen to the music the first time. He's like, I don't normally like this kind of music, but this is really fucking good. And I'm like, you're goddamn right it is. So that was really fun. I wanted to like do something different to talk about it here. So I got to, and Jerry, you got to play too at PAX, the kind of boss fight of that demo, which was a much rougher version of that game. It's
such the most fucking make you look like a clown ass bullshit. So I ran to the press hour basically directly to that booth so I can just play it, and I was amongst the first to do so. And as soon as I left, that line was basically
full,
packed the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine someone who waited like an hour and a half to play that demo, then gets to fly home and play a better version of that demo.
Way more polished.
A day later.
Because I think the demo that was on the floor was not on PS4 Pro. The resolution was lower. It was like way less anti-aliased, and like the frame rate was pretty inconsistent.
Cloud's hair looking rough.
Yeah, Cloud's hair looking like Final Fantasy 15 hair, like it just kind of like turned into artifacting toward the top part of it. And then, you know, and I was like, I wasn't really worried because I had bet like, okay, this probably isn't a pro and this definitely isn't final. So then when you get home and I play the full demo, it's like, oh, this hair looks so good, y'all. Like I can't even get started with this hair. Yeah, I watched Maximilian Dude do his full 1 hour and 55 minute, like, we're gonna take our time, let's take a walk, take a knee, everybody, because I'm gonna point out everything. There is like multiple Crisis Core references just in that demo also, which was cool to hear, like ones that I didn't realize. Yeah, it's really cool. I like the thing I like the most, and I don't know where you're at with it, Nabashin, because I don't know necessarily how you feel about the combat system in Final Fantasy VII Original, even on the tail end of us talking about it. But I really liked it. Jarrett, you had a great thing that you pointed out while we were at PAX of like now the characters aren't just all the same. Before anybody could just be whatever. Really, it doesn't matter. Some people have more affinities, certainly, but. And
their base stats are different.
Yeah, but generally, like once you're strong enough and once you have enough good materia, like you can kind of manipulate those numbers to your advantage, across the board. So I like that everybody is different, but as someone who likes action RPGs, but I do appreciate the RPGness of action RPGs. Like I love the Tales series because I think it really does meld the concepts really well, and that's why I'm really excited for Tales of Arise, because it seems like it's just breaking away from you have to go to another little arena to fight an enemy. It's just, we're going to fight in the world, you're just going to be in the world, it's an action game, you're in it now. I love that Final Fantasy VII does action RPG. It does like what I would say my preferred RPG like play method, but it's like a really cool and I think really original take on how to do that while hearkening and referencing things like Kingdom Hearts and different ideas, but like really I think doing its own thing. And it's like poised to be a personal favorite combat system just because of what I know about how you play Tifa and other characters, and like just how it feels and how you can kind of really customize it in a really cool way. Like it's more than just like, oh, they're remaking one of my favorite games of all time, and they're just like throwing the biggest combination of money and love at it, like as much as you can fucking fathom in one game. But they're also like making it play maybe like the best way I would want a game like this to play. Like if I saw a game that looked like this, I would want it to play like it does and feel like action and feel like you can blast things around and feel like you can do magic and do these special moves. It's just like super gratifying to see it all come together in such a really awesome way. But yeah, I don't know if you had any other thoughts, Nabashin, that you want to throw out there.
No. Like I plan to talk to you about this like later on, but like on something else. But like as far as right now, it's like I just think it was fun. Like it was just great. Like it's like to answer your question about like me thinking about what I thought about the old combat system. Like I just thought it was fine. Like it was like a typical like JRPG for me, and that's because I didn't really get too deep into the material system, which
Sure.
I realized how broken it was like after I beat the game.
Yeah, totally. It's the best though.
Yeah. But yeah, like I just thought it was like fun, like playing it. Like playing that game was like totally my jam. Like I could see myself getting into it. Like I played it like all the way through from beginning to end. I didn't die or anything like that, but like it was challenging enough for me to like actually struggle against like the scorpion boss and stuff like that.
Yeah, the boss
like,
was tough, and I like this stuff. It makes me excited about like beating it and then playing through it on hard mode, presumably like first class mode, whatever you want to call it, whatever it will be called. Of like, yeah, this is like in the same way like playing Kingdom Hearts on Proud. Like if like I kind of want a tough. I want to struggle through some of these fights because I think it's so fun to fight these big things.
Yeah, I'm considering doing on the hardest difficulty, but I'm not quite sure about that because like the thing about it is that I need a better grasp of the combat system. Like like I have a grasp of it, like I can play it obviously, but like it's more of like like getting better at evading, like when like the ground is like electrified. Like I almost got hit by that like almost every time. I said I'm dodging, but like. Is it a timing thing or is it like a distance thing? Should I not be Cloud at this time? Should I just switch to Barrett at that time and just like shoot him while he does that? So like Cloud will still get hit, but like I can still attack him at the same time. That type of thing.
Yeah, it's I haven't played through it multiple times. Like I definitely felt myself getting better and understanding things and being able to like do the shortcuts and cancel into things way better after multiple playthroughs. So it definitely feels like a thing that you'll get a better grasp on just with a little bit of time. But yeah, I was thinking about maybe playing it. I don't know if there's going to be a hard and a very hard mode, so I might play it on hard if there is. But we'll see.
Don't talk about it here, but like did you, when I texted you earlier, do you understand what I was talking about as far as like thinking about like where that game goes as far as like the sequel?
I think so. If you're talking about like the stuff that Maximilian dude kind of showed, or
More of what I was talking about with Easy Idea.
oh yeah, I did listen to that. Yeah, we'll have to talk about it.
I just think that's interesting to think about.
Totally. I it's all I can think about right now. It's the thing. Like I'm just so that's the thing I'm worried about the most. It's the thing I was the most critical of going into this. So it's like I don't want to think about it too much, so that it would hurt my experience with it. But I do want to talk it out.
Yeah.
So, what do you
Same way.
think, Jarrett?
I think it's pretty good. I think, or most importantly, I think it's does its job at making me excited to see what happens with this.
Mm-hmm.
It, not to say that I was worried about it necessarily, but I don't know when Square says we want to remake this thing. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
But it seems to me, both in mechanics and story, they're really looking to not just kind of empty, like exploitatively just take our money for our nostalgia, but they really ask the question, like, what would this game look like in 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does this game look like now that we're all different people and we're a different company? What does this company make? Which is interesting.
It weirdly feels to me like if Death Stranding was a straight up could have been Metal Gear. Like the passion and the money's there, but it's also something you actually want to play. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it feels like it's coming from at least the same place, right? Like, it doesn't feel like cynical.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
Where if Death Stranding was Metal Gear, that's exactly what it would have been if it was at Konami. It would have felt cynical.
Yeah.
For everything Death Stranding isn't. At least it doesn't feel like this game was made to check boxes or to mindlessly, I don't know, cater to a particular, I don't know, genre focused test.
That's
like,
right.
That's a good way to put it. It feels earnest. It feels like it is trying to convey something and not in a way that it's beating you over the head with it. It's just like, this is what we're trying to say. In a way that, yeah, like that's I think to what you were saying earlier, Navashin, that's like the new guard coming in, and I think adding those little touches and really fleshing out the feel of what it feels like to be in this world.
And it's kind of interesting because this feels like you said, like the people at Square are probably growing up, and that has changed the direction. But it's also like a series of head nods to people who grew up with them.
Yeah.
Not just in the content, but in like the combat itself draws a direct lineage from Kingdom Hearts to Crisis Core to even Dirge of Cerberus a little bit, and up through all of their action RPGs. Like this is another step on the Square action RPG sort of journey they've been going on for the past 20 years.
Being so opposed to it at the front, right, to where they are now.
Right. And in the same way that like Sekiro is a journey of Miyazaki's, like, how do I make this hardcore action RPG just where I obsess about the sword combat, like the combat.
Yeah. Where I feel like I'm swinging my sword every second of
Yeah.
that game, totally.
Where every single From Software like RPG in that lineage feels like a next step in an education that's happening about this sort of thing. This combat feels like that for Square's long lineage and being an action RPG sort of company, especially when he stopped doing the turn-based stuff. Like they've been out here experimenting for forever, it feels like, and this feels like a really cool, see guys, I think we got it now.
Totally.
kind of thing.
And it is cool that we will get to see this combat evolve too, like in the way a sequel would evolve, like a Gears 2 would evolve a Gears 1, weapons and the systems with them. Like we will be able to see maybe in the next presumably open world Final Fantasy VII game, Cloud will be able to jump. But it doesn't have to be in this game because it doesn't make sense for it to be in this game. But that is a thing that it could evolve into and be a little bit more actiony.
Yeah,
in
if they
that
can figure
regard.
out a way to make it make sense,
Yeah.
then I think and I think Cloud can get air in this game.
Oh,
Just he's
totally.
not jumping
He's got
actively,
ups. He just
but
doesn't
he got
jump.
buddy. I think even the small changes they've done to the story in this very early opening sequence says a lot about how they're trying to recontextualize Final Fantasy VII.
Totally.
Like, Jesse super horny for Cloud.
Yeah.
Was horny for Cloud in the original, but like super horny for Cloud.
Super
now.
horny now. We've got a super in front of it now.
That's something that I'm not sure we would appreciate like 25 years ago correctly. Like, in the same way that sort of Bayonetta changed the way we looked at like hot women in video games, like forever, basically, because she then became like a symbol for a marginalized people who play these games. And I feel like I'm not sure horny Jesse would have worked even 10 years ago.
And
But now
goddamn,
we can, like,
the Futaba
appreciate
voice is great.
Yes, it is. Erica Lindbeck is stellar.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that they're still terrorists, like they came there to blow up this reactor, but they don't blow up the reactor. Shinra blows up the reactor ultimately.
Yeah.
I think that is an attempt to take the teeth out of what is an act that would like actually kill like lots of innocent people. And maybe that's the difference between making Barrett and Cloud and Avalanche like dickheads with a purpose or just actual dickheads.
Yeah, and it's like we get to see that, right? But it was just kind of subtext before. It was like implied, and President Shinra was like, "Hey, we fucking manipulated you all," kind of toward the end of that. But in the original 7, but like seeing it more laid out like this, I don't know, and knowing that right after the demo and like where chapter 2 goes and how they're gonna incorporate that feeling of guilt, which was also in the original Final Fantasy 7, but again, that whole sequence lasts all of like 3 minutes, and now here it's going to be probably a couple hours. So being able to like see that and see that reflected in the characters and how they're reflecting that more around this tragedy, I think they're doing a great job with it.
Yeah, and when they say like they're expanding the story, I'm happy to see that that's kind of the ways they're expanding it. It's not just adding like side quests and shit, which I'm sure they'll be doing. But there are plenty of times and that are things that have been like papered over in the original 7 that like works to keep that game moving forward. And maybe they just didn't have the time or the resources to really like make you walk around like the area when the plate falls and like really going in there and like really like identifying it and accepting and adjusting.
Yeah.
And that they're kind of signaling that they'll be doing more of that in this game that's the right way to expand it, I think.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's a way to help keep the voice of this game relevant too, still, after all this time.
Real quick,
yeah,
because I realized, like, so pretty much like with this game, like I'm divorcing myself like with from I guess outside opinions other than my own in a way. Yeah. So like I need to hear like the most critical thing you could say about the demo that you think about the game so far. Just because like I don't really think, I mean, like, because right now I'm just trying to go with into it with my own mind. Like I did this with Kingdom Hearts 3 and that made that experience so much better. I wanted to do this with Final Fantasy 7 as well. So like was there anything like,
Jarrett, I'm gonna call that the most masterful tee up of the century, because I think you got it's locked and loaded.
I have 2 problems with the demo.
Sure.
One is how the early balance works. Like everything being attached to ATB bars seems aggressive. Like even items, like you can't even use it. The only thing you can do is attack until you have a bar, then you can do everything else. Seems like a weird place to put your items. Like for special attacks and for magic that tracks, but like for a thing that's in a bag, like you can swing the sword relentlessly, but you can't reach into your bag until you have a ATB bar. That seems like a lot. It's probably going to be something that's fine that you can work around pretty.
Could be materia that counteracts that too, like a materia that lets you use items even when you don't have ATB.
I'm sure there's probably some utility that will circumvent that or make that make more sense. But when I'm just have to sit around and kind of wait to use a potion, that seems weird.
Yeah.
And I guess the idea is like your all your actions have risks. Like there's an opportunity cost to everything. So like when you can do an action, you can choose to attack, but now you're leaving yourself open to being attacked and putting yourself at risk, putting your hit points at risk because you didn't choose to heal them or protect them. I don't know. It's not that demo is not enough to understand like how that relationship works. But up front, I don't like it. Also, fucking hate Barrett's voice. I've always hated it since I heard it the first time a year and a half ago, and it hasn't gotten any better.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, like, well, it's not weird. I I think it makes sense, but like, as someone, I love the exaggeratedness of Barrett in the original. Like, this is exactly how I would have imagined it in this, and it doesn't faze me for obvious reasons, more likely. But I get it. Is the thing. Like, there are times where it's like I don't know if they're playing this for laughs or if they're just.
And I think that's the biggest problem, right? Besides the fact that it appears to me that Japan only knows one black person.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But part of like the big problem is, and there isn't the issue, the reason this happened in the original was just a translation issue. Barrett was supposed to be more of like a Yakuza boss than anything else, but it was lost in translation here and he turned into Mr. T for some reason. Which is whatever. But the idea that now a casting director was like, he was Mr. T, completely forgetting the legacy and like the lineage of how he got here and what he was supposed to be before this, seems super weird to me. And it's very difficult because Barrett is supposed to be a person you take very seriously because he is the leader of a terrorist group and is the only one of the most like loudest voices and really like not just a talk about it, be about it kind of dude.
Right.
Going to destroy Shinra from the inside. Like that is someone you're supposed to take seriously. So when he's standing in the elevator monologuing at Cloud and telling like really like giving him the
important shit, and he sounds like some fucking cartoon character.
He sounds like a cartoon character, and Cloud just waves him off because he is a cartoon character. Like what? Like who is served by this? Like the fact that Cloud doesn't take anything seriously and is too cool for school. It's funny because then Barrett shits on him because he doesn't take anything seriously and no one likes those kind of people. That's fine, but like when he gives you a monologue and he's like shaking his fists and jumping around and like in an elevator and Cloud's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, of course that's what you say because what the fuck is wrong with you, Barrett?
Exactly.
Like, like chill.
Yeah.
I wish that I wish that they at least served a bit more of a balance there. I feel like anytime Barrett has anything important to say, it's always in a super silly way, and it makes me sad.
Yeah, I need to hear the Japanese voice. Let's have a good comparison.
Yeah, I'd be curious what that sounds like.
Yeah, I need to do that later.
Because I wonder if then the Japanese version of that game just leans into the kind of Americanized character that they made him. I imagine it does, right? Because it's going to probably...
I imagine too, because even anytime he's had a voice, basically, in any of the materials, Final Fantasy VII related materials that come out since the game, he's always sounded
Our
like
dark
this.
materials.
Like, even in Advent Children, he sounded like this.
Yeah.
I mean, in Advent Children, it was also super weird because he had like a chain like shirt that was also like fishnet.
Yeah, he had the weird fishnets and the gray vest and
right. So like he was again difficult to take.
He had a good haircut in.
I just wish like
Advent Children.
I wish like people, especially like if this is supposed to be sort of like an Americanized vision of the future, which I think it's maybe not Americanized but Westernized vision of the future, like a city that is literally a corporate city state sounds a whole lot like an American dystopia to me. There's a long lineage of revolutionary black people from this country that all could have been, I don't know, reference points for this. Like, not that he needed to be Huey Newton, but someone could have listened to a Huey Newton speech or a Malcolm X speech or something then recognize that like even when someone's talking, sternly or with purpose and with passion, they don't necessarily turn into a cartoon.
Right.
Yeah, I guess like just for me, like from my perspective, the him like doing the kind of squatting and grunting and yelling, because having just played the original 7, like he does this animation where he like beats his hands against his chest, which I would say was more problematic. Like that just is like that translated for me, and I'm just so into it. It's hard not to be into it. I don't like. It's hard to change my mindset for it, but like I guess I find him to be like intimidating, like almost unhinged in the way that like for me it's like Cloud is like laughing at him because Cloud's like tough. He can take anybody, right? So I'm like filling in a lot of what I'm bringing to the table as far as like the characters, projecting a lot onto them. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird to think of. I'd be really curious to see like a more like quietly intimidating Barrett, and I think you can still be like loud in those short burst moments, but maybe not like monologuing and yelling.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's not a committal to his character when you make him this like this lumbering sort of deep, heavy timbred voice, like intimidating dude who also goes on like spirited monologues.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's definitely a way to balance this. Like a person who says what he wants you to hear, says it sternly and only wants to say it once is a character trope that's out there.
Yeah.
That's like every like military general. Like that this is what this person could be. And like the small interactions that Cloud and Barrett have like during combat or just walking around are a mixed bag too. Like
I love them so
some
much.
of their backs and forth is great. And
Wait,
some
you
of
like the fucking incessant, like non-stop combat quips? They're so fucking cringy.
I love them.
Like it's like why didn't you just stop talking? Like
No,
both of you could just attack and it'd be fine.
They're fine, except he says like 30 fucking phrases a minute.
There are times where it's too much.
Sucker, and then just like
Yeah, he's like literally, dude looped like 3 of the same phrases 3 times.
I guess I just don't see him as much, maybe, but I'm like in the zone when I'm in combat. So if they're like going back and forth all the time, I like the demeanor that Cloud carries so much of like when like for example when they like play the battle music and it locks him in that room the first time and he's like that's my line, like, and then he'll do the is that all or things like that at the end of combos. I fucking eat that shit up, dude.
yeah, put your weapon down.
But
No,
like also Tony, like I love the fucking Tales games where they literally yell the move that they do every fucking time they do it.
That's fine. But if it's like the same like dumb like shit half-ass joke 3 times, it's like, oh god.
That's my shit. That's my ASMR.
And again, I like some of it. I wish there was a way I could like turn a slider down or something.
Yeah, reduce combat dialogue.
Yeah, like when you pass from character to character, I think some of that back and forth is funny.
Mm-hmm.
When a battle ends and they're kind of like
Bear goes
quipping at each other, I think that works.
That's very
But
good.
like, just I don't like Barrett. You don't have to talk all the time.
He really doesn't.
It probably sound better when there's more people in the party, I would assume.
Maybe,
So,
and maybe this build is just like maybe that's something that's going to be tweaked like before launch or whatever. But
how you play 13, right, Jarrett? How do you think about Saz?
I wanted to like Saz more than I did. I think my problem with Saz is his of the stories in that game, his is like
it's the lamest, dude.
It's like the least important, quote unquote. I mean, he's lost his son, but it's also resolved pretty quickly.
Yeah, he gets the least screen time about it though. Like we learned the least about Zaz compared to all the other characters.
And he has lots of visual gimmicks that I just don't like.
Yeah,
like
he's goofy for no reason.
Afro is just hanging out, I guess. He's always like he's trying to be like, I guess, concerned father, but it always comes off as just like
kind of creepy,
concerned about everybody.
Yeah,
or not about anybody except himself. Like he's always a guy that's worried about what's happening next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like thinking because like like it's basically like comparing like Cloud and Lightning, and like this the conversation between their two black characters is like a wonder. It's like does Square even know like how to really like do this dialogue in a real way or
I feel
not?
like
Nicole, I just in the chat, Nicole Humphrey unanimously agrees about the Barrett voice. Just so if you were curious, Jarrett.
it's just bad. I think Square has done one black character good. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what's his name, Kiros, Laguna's friend in Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh shit! Yeah, totally.
And it might be just because he doesn't say anything very often. He's just in and out.
What about Rude from Final Fantasy VII?
So-
honestly, Jared, I'm just starting to think that you don't like black people very much.
I think Square doesn't like black people very much.
Yeah, I think the Square might have. There's just not they don't have enough of those characters in their games, and it's a bummer.
Well, and I think, yeah, I feel like, especially as we've gone forward, and these games have been taking place in places that are supposed to feel more
Diverse.
modern and metropolitan.
Yeah.
It's weird that there's usually none. If there's a black character at all, they're probably either a black character in the same way fantasy, like movies, TV shows, and books have black characters where they're just another race, like Fran, or they are kind of like a secondary afterthought-y kind of character. Though I think Redis it was a decent black character too in Final Fantasy 12. He's an actually black character. Well, he's brown. He's not black. He's probably more Middle Eastern than anything. Because Evil East is like a big Middle East thing. But they're just none of us around. They just and honestly, I would rather us not be there than us be there and sound like Barrett.
Sure.
I
I think the thing that will really like sell what his character really is like his scenes with Marlene, and like
Yes.
eventually in the next game when his like loyalty
That's
mission
what I'm hoping.
happens.
Like when you go to Tifa's bar and like they have a real fucking conversation.
Yeah, and I want to see how he changes how he talks and stuff around Marlene, because it is funny to see him, like people pointed out there's a poster in the train station for a cartoon show called like The Adventures with Stamp, and he calls Cloud Stamp multiple times, like as a reference to that children's show, and it's like kind of a character hint that he probably watches cartoons with his kid. And it's like, I want to see if we get a scene like when they're at Aerith's mom's house and stuff a little bit later on, and Marlene is hiding there with Barrett. I want to see like a scene where Cloud like walks in and they're like watching cartoons together, stuff like that. Like, I think there's a lot of room to do a lot of really cool stuff with that. For me, criticisms of the demo, like I'm gonna be honest, man, like it's hard. It's real hard.
No, it's fine because like I said, I'm. It's not like I'm necessarily like blacked out on it or something like that. I'm not blacked out as far as Final Fantasy VII, but it's more of like, I'm kind of blocked off from other people's opinion because I kind of don't want it. I kind of don't need it. It's one of those things like I just want this for myself type of thing.
Totally, me
But
too.
like, but I'm taking this opportunity just like to see what I'm missing in a way, but like also like let's take it to heart as well.
It is like it's lame that there are laser puzzles. Like I felt that definitely on like the third run. It's like why am I just going between lasers? But I think like my concerns are with like the difficulty and the fact that you can't have multiple menus for your shortcuts. I don't know if that's maybe a thing that you'll unlock as you just get more abilities. Maybe there's an item that you get that lets you do that. That is the case in the Tales games. So I'm not sure, but. That had me a little worried, and like how difficult it was out the gate had me worried. But again, I kind of got used to it as time went on. It's just one of those things where it really stresses me out how this will end, and it will not. It will have gotten to maybe one of the 15 of my favorite scenes from Final Fantasy VII. Like maybe one of them happens in those first 5 hours, and I'm excited to re-experience all of them and have more of them become my favorite scenes from Final Fantasy VII, but it just like it stresses me that it's just going to be we're going to be back in the 2016 through 2019. Like I don't really know what's going on with this game again. Like it stresses me that we'll be there, and I stress about what that time frame's going to look like with new consoles and stuff coming out and all that. So, but that's like my criticisms, right? It's all like future stress. It's just me overthinking the future as I always do. So, let's take a break because we've been going for a hot minute here. When we come back, I'm probably just going to wrap up Jarrett and Mine's games and then skedoodle on out of here. But that was a very good. I like that talking about Final Fantasy VII, obviously all the time. So we'll be back in just a little bit. Him and I are on the same
It is in your
wavelength.
brain.
We're back, everybody. It's about to get wet and wild. Everyone, take your seats, get your popcorn, reheat your burrito. We're about to resume. We are back. Jarrett, I assume you played other video games outside of Final Fantasy VII Remake demo.
I did.
Cool. What you got?
I guess the most time I spent was with a game called Iris and the Giant, a roguelike deck builder. Stop me if you heard this before.
Oh, uncharted territory, I see.
I guess the premise here is, I guess what makes this different than other ones is that there's a very clear sort of narrative being told, whereas a lot of them are just run based, kind of like go to the dungeon and see what happens. This is that, but there's at least, I guess, a story, an ultimate story being told with an end. You play as Iris, whose age I'm not sure.
Age unknown.
Age unknown, young, probably like middle schoolish. Is suffering from like lots of anxiety and depression, and she kind of recedes into video games and like worlds of her own creation, like
heavy.
her imagination. But I guess in one like sort of traumatic moment, she is transported to like a some sort of magical place where she has to fight her way up a mountain, less like floor by floor, fighting like, I guess, physical manifestations of her inner demons.
Been there, man.
Which
that's rough.
Is a concept that like doesn't really hit, if we're being honest.
Really?
I think as a story removed from like the gameplay, it's an interesting story. I think the idea that like every floor she's climbing up is like a step towards, I don't know, I guess personal revelation, and then all these creatures that are jumping into her path to stop her are like manifestations of her depression. Like that doesn't really work for me.
It kind of reminds me of Inside Out, if you've seen that.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think the difference with Inside Out though is like there isn't like a gameplay thing that's saying that when you fight these bad guys, you're also like curing your depression.
Yeah,
like, it's not that simple. And when it tries to reduce it down to that, it doesn't really feel great. Or at least it's not so distracting that it like takes away from either element, but these elements do not work together. So I can appreciate the story being told separately than the gameplay happening here, but they are not equally melded. This is not like actual Sunlight or Depression Quest, where like the playing of the game is kind of like a discussion about the mental sort of illnesses that this game is trying to focus around. This is just a roguelike that's also like, this girl's depressed.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a bummer, but I think the playing of this game is so good that I'm not dwelling on it necessarily. It works like any other roguelike, with the big exception that the enemies coming to you, they're getting like shuffled down like sets of rows, and they double as sort of like steps in a path. So if you're on a 3x3 grid, you kill a monster in front of you, these monsters will move up and shuffle, and they'll get filled in from the back. And either a new monster will come from the back, or maybe like an obstacle, like a mountain or a pillar, or stairs. You have to find stairs in every level.
Okay.
So killing the monsters, one, you have to kill them because they're going to hit you back. You don't want them to do that. But two, you have to kill them strategically so you can sort of navigate your way to the stairs. So every combat scenario is both knowing how to like minimize damage to you based on the attackers on the field, but also trying to make the most progress through the dungeon at the same time. Um, the way the enemies sort of interact with you and each other is really cool. I've probably successfully run through that game twice now, and I've still met new enemies that I didn't see before.
That's cool.
And I don't know if that's me just not exploring enough initially, or like just over time these things show up. But yeah, I'm still being surprised by the kind of things I'm running into.
That is cool though. Is it is there like a kind of more obvious hook as other than the kind of constant progression forward that separates it from the other kind of card roguelike deck builders?
The cards themselves, I guess the way you so the cards themselves are just they are what they are. They're all one use cards. When you use them, they disappear. If you run out of cards, you lose. But you regain cards in almost like packs. So like a chest, you can open a chest. In the chest are packs of cards. So it won't just be one sword. It'll be 6 swords or 2. What they call confidences. They heal your hit points, which are called willpower. They all do like basically one simple thing, but they're all modified in weird ways. Like swords themselves just do 1 damage to something in melee range, but if your swords have a special ability where you can just use as many swords as possible. Like you can just keep using swords until you've run out of swords. Bows, they can hit anything on the board, do 1 damage, but you only use 1 at a time. Every item or every card that you have that does a thing, there's an enemy that can do that same thing.
Okay.
So, and you'll see them when they appear, whatever's in their hand kind of signals what they can do to you. So if something with an axe, like the axes, when they attack you, don't do the same thing that does to everybody else. Like when you use an axe, you hit everybody in the front row. When you see somebody with an axe, they just do more damage than one. But it's important to know who's holding what because you can also steal cards from them. So like if an axe guy shows up, you know that if you use a particular card that can steal, then you'll be able to get an axe from him and then use that against him.
Okay.
There's also like pushing and pulling mechanics. Like there's a whip weapon that you can now pull things from the back row up to you or push things away. They start spicing it up by like adding dudes that can't be hit by certain types of attacks, so you have to find ways to attack them indirectly. There's mystery stairs, like there's a set of stairs that always goes up, and there's also usually a set of stairs that goes like at a different path. So like there's a risk reward with staying longer to find the hidden path. I think there's also like a bunch of passive ways to increase to change your gameplay style. Like you can find memories, they're called, of hers, which are like items that give you a point that you can then use on a tree before every run to like alter your gameplay passively in some way. There's also imaginary friends, quote unquote, they're called, where if you achieve certain in-game challenges, you'll get this other thing you can equip that also then passively alters your gameplay in some way. So there's like lots of things to do in this very not narrow, because it's 20 floors plus a bunch of extra stuff. Like the game itself is you can see the entire game pretty easily, but there's lots of stuff to go back and do, lots of replayability to try.
Yeah, I'm watching some gameplay now to kind of clear up what I had in my head. It is cool.
It also looks really good.
Yeah, it's got a great art style. But yeah, no, it's always weird like when there's so many. I still haven't played like any of these kind of deck building games, or deck building roguelikes, I guess. Like I've yet to check out like a Slay the Spire or anything like that, but it's always wondering like is there going to be one that's got like some level of a hook that really gets me into it. But this one,
I wonder. I mean, I know a lot of them have like unique hooks in it themselves, but like how much does that hook make it any different than the other ones is always the question. And I think ultimately they don't. Like if you don't like the core idea of a roguelike deck builder, then I don't think there's going to be one that changes your mind.
Yeah. I think I think I still like that idea. It's just like implementation that would be something that I feel comfortable picking up and playing, because I think I'm a little bit more finicky with smaller games like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you've been playing, Jarrett?
Went back to No Man's Sky after that.
Update like
Last
12
update.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I played a little of that last week before we flew out to PAX.
How's it treating you?
I found literally nothing that was added. The one before this, I had to start over basically. And I think me and Quinn play a little bit together. But I'm still basically at the beginning of that game as far as like that main quest is concerned. So I'm in no position to like grow and fly around in an organic spaceship, which is why I came back to play. So it's still, I have to play a lot of that game to even get to this new shit. But I also hadn't played much of it since, like, I guess Beyond or whatever the first big update was.
No Man's Sky next.
So there's plenty of new shit that I haven't really engaged with around. So I'm not, there's no like FOMO that I'm missing out on this new shit, because there's this new shit, because there's plenty of old new shit I haven't even touched yet.
Yeah, man, that's cool. It's cool to see that game still kicking, you know. See that run on PlayStation 5. See it
I
happen.
didn't give up on it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Just let it die.
Yeah.
I feel like it has like a small but very affectionate community as well now.
Yeah,
so.
that's probably true. I'm sure that there's definitely a community of people who are keeping that game a thing.
Mm-hmm. I played some games. I can talk about it a little bit. I think like I don't know what I can't talk about with Persona 5 Royal. But I started playing that. I will probably be able to talk about that next week. And I think I don't necessarily have a lot to say right now. So, it's a very long video game. So, but I think next week maybe I'll answer some questions about that if you guys have any, not spoilers, of course. Respect the canon, but, and I also, we'll talk about it later, but I've been playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I'll probably cut that in here, honestly. If you're watching live, the audio version of this will have some little extra Ori and the Will of the Wisps conversation. You should go download and listen to the podcast as well, because I can't talk about it until Tuesday. But aside from that, I really, like, before we went to Boston, like I was like, I'm gonna play Metroid Prime 3. So, like, you know, if you just want to know like how I'm doing as a mental state and like health wise, like if I'm okay, I'm not, clearly. Anytime you pick up every time you turn on your Wii U again,
Mm-hmm.
that's when a friend should be like, hey, are you doing all right? Hey, like, do you
That's
need
Hey, man. Mario Maker's on that shit.
Mario Maker's on that shit. But I don't own Mario Maker on there, so I why would I not play it on Switch?
Hey, are you all right?
Now I'm worried. But so I'd replayed Metroid Prime 2. I think I talked about that last week. I finished it. I got to the end and I died on the final boss, and I was like, I really don't need to see the end of this game again. Maybe I'll go back and just cap it off, but I really just want to play through it again, because I love the world in Metroid Prime 2. Started playing Metroid Prime 3, then we went to Boston, played some stuff at PAX that I didn't talk about anywhere, and I wanted to talk about a little bit. Because I tried to see, you know, some things that were a little bit out of my comfort zone, even though I kind of ended up playing mostly things that I was really looking forward to. I saw at least one Tony-ass game and a couple Nobishin-ass games. I definitely saw some Scott games, but I think, Scott, they're already kind of on your radar, which is Shovel Knight Dig. If it wasn't on your radar, it should be, because, boy, howdy. You played that too, Jarrett.
I did, yes.
That's some good shit. Scott, I don't know if you've played Downwell. the roguelike Downwell. It was originally on mobile.
I've played it.
It's on PC and stuff. So Shovel Knight Dig is essentially combining the ideas of Downwell and like a little bit of Steamroll Dig and Shovel Knight in a really cool way. So it's a roguelike where you're kind of making runs and things are going to be different every time. It is a Shovel Knight spin-off, so this isn't like Shovel Knight 2, but it is in the Super Nintendo like kind of art style and aesthetic, and the music is like kind of remixed to be SNES sounding music. But it's very fast paced, right? You're mashing the dig button and you're like digging down very, very quickly. And you're going through these procedurally generated levels and you're navigating through traps and stuff. So it is like this kind of constant progression down, like Downwell, and you're getting items and stuff like any roguelike that you're going to lose when you die, but it's like this makes your defense a little bit higher, this makes you able to do this ability, or this gives you a shield or something like this. Those are the kinds of things you're getting as you're just constantly going down. And the better you do, and the more these 3 gears you find per like section of a level will allow you to either refill health or get a randomized item at every kind of checkpoint. So it was really different than what I thought it was going to be, but I was like way into it. Honestly, Tony, you might dig it as well. I don't know what you thought about Downwell, but Downwell was cool for me. It was just like not very comfortable to play, I thought. So it was cool seeing that as a more like action-y Shovel Knight game. Genshin Impact was maybe the most Tony video game I think I've ever seen. It was described to me as Breath of the Wild but anime. And then I was like, okay, but what is it really? And I played it, and it is kind of like that, just like, and it's a third-person action game. But it is so very much anime, and I think you're like recruiting all these different characters that all have like kind of different elemental powers, right? So there are people with water powers, wind powers, fire powers.
How do you recruit them though? Do I walk around and suck them into my tail?
You might, because there's a lot of them that have like foxtails and stuff. So
Yeah. Do I gain their powers?
So you can. The cool thing is you can have 4 party members at any time, and you can switch between characters like on the fly anytime. So like characters are like their abilities are kind of determined by their preset like weapon type. So you can think of the characters as like different weapon types. Like, oh, this girl uses a spear. Like this person uses a sword. This person uses ranged magic. This person uses like some weird weapon. So think of something more clever than I am. But like, so you're generally switching between characters because they'll have a different elemental affinity, which will do damage against different enemies better. But also because they're using a different weapon to switch up playstyle. So everyone kind of has 2 special moves and a super, all of which are on like different cooldowns. But like moment to moment, it's like this really beautiful kind of traditional Japanese style world. Like I'm talking like pagodas and like a lot of sakura leaves and a lot of like traditional Japanese aesthetic or fantastical Japanese aesthetic. And it is like moment to moment Breath of the Wild. You can jump, you can glide, you can climb any surface. And it seems like you're going to be going around recruiting characters to fight back against evil. So it like I saw a little bit of the map and it looked gorgeous. It's coming to PS4, PC, and mobile. Which is an interesting combination. But I played the PS4 version, which was, hey, it was rough. We can all acknowledge that it was a rough time. And I walked over to the PC station. It looked fucking good, y'all. So that was a part of, like, okay, I got to at least put this on Tony's radar. Genshin Impact.
I didn't love the demo. I mean, the demo's fine.
Yeah.
I just wish there was like a quest to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally just an area you run around in.
You just run around and do bullshit. We have a gameplay of it up on Irrational Passions YouTube channel if folks want to check that out. But I would encourage you, Tony, to just look up some gameplay to see you have an idea what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
I replayed Get to the Orange Door, which I had played last PAX East. It was very basic back then, and this was like a very different, fuller build. If you don't remember, which I don't blame you, it's a very kind of unique name and game. It's like the idea is taking the obstacle course from like a Titanfall, like the training course that you do to kind of learn the mobility of a level or of a game, and making a whole game out of that. So you're constantly moving wall running and jumping and double jumping and using like these booster jumps, almost like Sonic the Hedgehog style, to get to the orange door. Only this time, you have to get 4 keys that are spaced throughout the level in order to open the orange door. So if you get to the orange door and go through it, it resets you back in the level. So the idea is to kind of blast through the level back to back to back multiple times, kind of taking different routes to get all the keys to then complete the level and finish it. And on top of that, they had added like there's a slowdown mechanic where you can click in the right bumper to temporarily slow things down so you can aim and shoot enemies clearer. You could switch you just had one gun in this, I think, before you could pick up guns. Now you just had a pistol, but it had a single fire mode and an ult 3-hit fire mode, which was very cool. And there was also like there was some kind of shield mechanic where you would have to do certain things like kill enemies to make your shields come back, and then you had health under the shields, but you could throw down like a health healing pool, I guess, like a circle that'll heal over time. Anytime it was just on a cooldown. So it was like every 5 seconds you could throw one of those downs or something like that. So there's a lot more mechanics, and they were actually all very interesting. I think they complemented the kind of high stakes tension of like get to the orange door, run, try and get through this as fast as possible. I think they all work together with that. So it's cool to see that. I think it's still in early access on Steam. So like this is something that folks can go out and try right now. But I think it's a really cool idea, and it still stands out to me. It was cool because I went over there, and the guy that was running basically the publisher, the person that was representing them, I had met last year, and he remembered me because I had played the same game last year. So that was very sweet. And he's like, I follow you on Twitter, and I saw your panel went very well. So shout out to that guy. I'm terrible with names, and I don't remember yours, but I love you. I also played. I didn't get to talk about Cyber Shadow. I got to play the new demo for Cyber Shadow. This is like a 2D old school Ninja Gaiden style game being published by Yacht Club Games, being made by one dude, and I think a composer. Very cool 2D, ninja game, like again, Ninja Gaiden, like old school, like NES era old school. But I got to play this, like the 4th level in this. I think it was like the 2nd level in the demo. I got to see way more abilities and stuff. I don't have like necessarily a lot to say, only it's like one of those kinds of games like The Messenger, things like that, but it is way more focused. It is like heavier in almost a Castlevania 1 era kind of way of like how things have animations and you kind of have to let them play out, and you have to be proactive. Like you can't throw yourself into a thing because things will play out, animations will play out, and that'll get you hurt. So you have to kind of think ahead a lot, which I appreciate. I almost beat the boss, but I died when we both had like 1 health left, and he got me first. But it was like a cool underwater snake that reminded me of this underwater robot snake that you fight in Metroid Fusion, which is a high compliment always. So yeah, Cyber Shadow still looks great. Still, I think very much one of those kinds of games, a 2D action platformer. I still don't have like a better idea of like there are like branching levels and you'll be going in different directions. I don't know if you'll be able to replay levels. I don't know if it's kind of like Star Fox 64 where you're going to have these choice points that'll lead you to an ending that you're just going to get and you'll want to be playing it multiple times. I still don't have a good grasp on that, and that's a little bit of a bummer. I couldn't talk to the guy who was working on it this time, but it seems like going off of the map that I saw that will be an aspect of it. I just don't know. I don't know any more than that. And the other thing I didn't get to talk about, I don't know if you got to talk about it either, Jarrett, was Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, which was a new Shovel Knight spinoff that they announced right when PAX started. The idea is it's like puzzle fighter, it's visually reminiscent of that. Very different kind of game, but you're looking at a grid. You're playing as Shovel Knight, but you'll also be able to play as other knights. And it is like a old school straight up roguelike, where like you move and that is when everything else moves. So you're kind of dictating the pace. Although if you take too long, things will move without you. And every time you attack an enemy, you trade with them. So you always have to kind of be proactive about how much health you have left. If this enemy takes 3 hits to take down, and that'll like basically destroy any of that same enemy that it's connected to, like a puzzle game, it will if that takes 3 hits, that'll take 3 of your health as well, or at least 2, because if you kill them on the hit, they won't do damage to you. And then you have to kind of maneuver around and hit like little potions that are spruced throughout the board as well, to kind of keep yourself healthy so you can keep crunching through enemies. So it's this cool, like, it plays like a roguelike, but it has all these puzzle elements that make it constantly moving and constantly, you have to be like looking ahead and really planning out your moves in the way you would for a puzzle game like that. But it's also kind of an action game in how you're trading with enemies. It's a brilliant idea. I love the vibe that it gave off.
It would be a great mobile game.
Yeah.
IMO.
I think so too. But it also felt great on a controller. So it's one of those ones that I'm hoping gets to come to like those big platforms, like everything and mobile on the same day, because I think that would do really well for Pocket Dungeon. But it's very early on, so I didn't hear much more outside of that. And I think that's it. I was looking at my list here. I played Ys Memories of Celceta, which is like, I guess, a remake of, I think, Ys 4. It's like the second remake of Ys 4, and this was actually a PS Vita game that they're just remastering for PS4. I had a great time with it. It reminded me a lot of Ys 8. It was basically getting the kind of vibe that all these games are pretty similar to each other, but I didn't want to say that to the guy that was like shepherding my demo, who showed me a couple of really cool things. And I learned, I was hanging out with Scott White while we were talking to him, and he had like, members of his team had like worked on Trails of Cold Steel and stuff. Like we were like geeking out basically over translation and stuff, which was cool. But Memories of Celceta is super my jam. If you play Ys 8, it reminds me a lot of that. You kind of mapping out this forest, and this forest is really dangerous, but like you're essentially going back to town, regrouping, and then going deeper and deeper into this forest, mapping it out, kind of like in Ys 8, you abandon on an island and you're like slowly mapping out the island, trying to find a way off. So it seems like less of a bigger overarching goal, but jolly as hell still, and just like a fun little action game. Yeah, that was really it. I texted you, Nabishin. The 2 Nabishin games I saw were Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, which is already on your radar. There's also a game called Bladed Fury, which is sick. Jarrett played it too, but it's very Vanillaware-esque, I think, combat and action-wise. At the very least, it reminded me a lot of Muramasa, which was cool to see multiple games that gave me that vibe. But that's about it. I did pull some news here, but we're running pretty long here. If anybody, is there anything on this list that's still particularly relevant that folks want to talk about? Everything getting canceled because of the coronavirus.
I got some games to talk about.
Yeah,
so.
you still have games to talk about? Why didn't you bring them up earlier, Tony?
Well, I mean, I didn't want to take up all the time, and then Alex decided to talk for 3 hours. So
I didn't talk for 3 hours.
I'm just kidding. But yeah,
what you got?
RimWorld came out with a DLC this week for the first time since it came out years ago.
Ooh.
So I picked RimWorld back up and playing a lot of that. It adds like a bunch of stuff that some of the most popular mods on the Steam Workshop added to RimWorld, and then a bunch of other kind of like really weird non-RimWorldy things. Like it adds a royalty system where there's like this basically like this space kingdom that has a bunch of influence, and there are royals, and they have developed technology to make psionic implants that they give their royals.
Whoa.
And the royals put them in their face and develop psionic abilities.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy shit. So you can, and then so basically what this means for you as, you know, basically a Dwarf Fortress-esque colony building game, is that every once in a while you'll get a quest from this like Star Empire. And some of these quests, if you complete them, you gain royal favor with this Star Empire.
Oh God, did I may have.
He's gone.
Okay, it was Tony. It wasn't me. I was like so scared. You guys have no idea.
Where did I cut out?
Royal. I feel like the last word.
So they gain royal favor.
Yes, royal favor.
And when the person that accepts the quest, like whichever one of your pawns, little colonist guys, accepts the quest, gains a certain number of royal favor, they gain a royal title, and they will as they move up in ranks by doing these quests, they will develop more and more psionic abilities, but will become more demanding of, like, they'll want a nicer bedroom, they'll want a throne room,
Always so needy.
they'll be unwilling to do basic tasks or crafting or cleaning or
That's
anything
cool.
like
That's a cool system.
yeah, so it's super neat. It's kind of like a forced leader to your colony. And a lot of cool stuff comes with that, so it's been a lot of fun to kind of rediscover RimWorld as a result of that, and then get back into a lot of the, going in and modding it, because a lot of RimWorld is enriched by its modding community, and there's so many cool things on there that having this whole new base of content plus another a bunch of other really like nice but smaller updates to the game that came with this mod pack has made it a lot of fun to dive back into RimWorld.
Yeah, cool.
I definitely spent a lot of time with that earlier this week.
I forgot about RimWorld. Like, I forgot you guys had talked about that. Cool. Anything else you've been playing, Tony, that you're keeping secret?
No. I just wanted to touch on RimWorld.
Hell yeah. Cool. I think that's it then. I think we should skedoodle on out of here. We got a final segment to get to. Just a quick little closer before we get to our final segment. We normally take questions. I asked a little late today, but you can tweet them at IrrationalPod. Hashtag IPQ makes them easier for me to find, or you can leave us a voicemail, 404-590-1337. Send us an email, mailsack@irrationalpassions.com. I'm trying to think anything also before we get out of here, like, to look forward to this week. We've got a little bit of, like, more PAX stuff. So if folks have, like, any questions of any other things that we saw that folks want us to talk about, just let us know. Any of those means will be perfect. You can follow the site and the show on Twitter at IrrationalPod. Nobishin is at Nobishin186, and I'm at Alfighter27 on Twitter as well. Jarrett, you are at Jarrett John. Everyone should follow Jarrett on Twitter because he is, like, criminally underfollowed and has some of the best tweets that you will ever see on the internet. So just throwing it out there.
Depends on how much alcohol I have.
It depends on how many Jarrett Drinkston's posts you've made that day. You can check out all of our video stuff. Like I said, we have a Genshin Impact video with Mike and George talking about it. YouTube.com/Irrational Twitch streams, same place, twitch.tv/Irrational Always Irrational Passions wherever you go. Rate and review us wherever you listen. If it's Apple Podcasts, if it's Spotify, if it's whatever. It would help us out a lot. And check out irrationalpassions.com. Because that's where the magic happens. It is time. I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the vindication right now. But we'll get there in just a moment because it's time for bets. This week's bet, Jarrett, there's a new betting system thing. We'll get to it at the end. Don't worry. Today you're just betting along with the rest of us.
Okay.
We're all just betting together. Don't sound so scared. Come into my baby Bjorn. Let me cradle you. This week's bet. This time next week, how many viewers will the most currently viewed Neo 2 streamer have? So this isn't like total concurrent viewers on Neo 2. So I thought that would be too easy. This is like whoever the top person. How many viewers did they have in the Neo 2
Neo
page?
2 comes out next week?
It comes out next Friday, homie. We're in
Are
it.
you fucking serious?
I am sorry. I hate to report to you, but yeah, we're living that now. And then Animal Crossing and Doom come out the Friday after that.
Right.
And then it will never stop.
Ever.
Well, probably like the third week of April. I think it's going to be pretty chill. But I don't. And then I guess Last of Us is May. How many viewers? I'm going to say 2,200. I'll kick us off. That is
For a single streamer?
Single streamer.
Okay.
The most popular, currently most viewed streamer will have 2,200 views this time next week. I imagine there will just be a lot of people streaming it.
At the time that we're recording.
At the time we're recording. So Saturday, probably around 7, or Sunday, similar time.
It's not going to be 7.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It'll be like the end of the podcast. It'll be like 9 o'clock. But it's the weekend that Neo 2 comes out.
I'll bet 26.5K.
26.5K. I like it.
No, I feel like 1,500 is enough.
Okay.
Damn, it's a hard stance. It's enough.
It's enough. That's
enough. Neo.
Enough of this.
That's enough.
Scott?
I'm going with the 12.
12,000 or 1,200?
1,200.
Just 12 people.
Damn.
12,000.
That would be such a
the
star
Neo disrespect. They're all on Mixer.
It's Neo. It's not.
Yeah, I just don't think it'll be as big either.
It's
Scott.
not a mainstay stream sniper game. Can you get stream snipe? How hard can you do it?
Yeah, it's true. I don't even know if you can.
Not that hard.
I don't know if you can be invaded in Neo 2. Like, I don't know what the rules are. Nabishin?
Exactly.
Max usually peaks out around 10,000, so I'll say about 10,000.
All right. See, I like that. It's an informed bet. All right. Now it's time for last week's bet. I just want to say, last week we did not know this for sure. Last week's bet, which was 2 weeks ago, was will the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo have been released by the time we podcast next? It has, and everyone except me said no, so I win, and I feel very good about it. I felt very good about it all week, and I just want to share that with you.
Did I place a bet on that one?
You did not.
I vote for yes.
It's too late, Tony. You can't just
Well,
do
I
that. You know what? I appreciate the hustle though. Not a lot of movement on the
See,
charts.
if you had asked me before the podcast, I would have still said yes.
The thing is, like, we really didn't know, but I guess so. Preview embargo lifted on Monday of that week, and the demo came out that night. So it was like they all kind of coincided, which was a really smart marketing move on Square Enix's part, of just like, hey, previews just came out and everyone's talking really high about this, and also you can play some of it right now. But yeah, it was an optimistic bet, but I'm glad that it worked out. So it brings my point total to 2. Nabishin also has 2. Scott has 1. Tony has 1. I think Scott got on the board while you were away, Tony, so you should be
Congrats.
proud.
Nice.
So
Yes,
basically, the winner of the bet will get to choose the team that Jarrett is going to be on. And I'm sorry, y'all, but I got to take my boy. I got to take my boy under my wing, into my baby born. So, Jarrett, that just means for this season, every time you make a bet on the show, it's you and me, buddy.
Drafted.
Draft. Not by choice. Forced into the draft. Find the good fight, though. That's the show. Thank you, everybody, so much for hanging out, for listening. Thank you again to everyone that showed up at PAX. It was very... I got very emotional Monday night when I was texting my mom, like, explaining to her what had happened. And just telling her, like, what the panel was, who was on it, because she was, like, kind of out of the loop on it. And I just started crying because I was very thankful for the turnout that we had. Whether it was just like, hey, we had a cool idea and you wanted to come check it out or not, like, all the same, it means the world to me. And it was cool that, like, in 2012 when we first got to go to PAX East, and I was like, this is a really great opportunity. 8 years later, like, we got to host a panel there and we got to fill it up. And a lot of people were really stoked about it, and a lot of people had a lot of fun. So just thank you again. You can go listen to the panel also, like I said, I mentioned earlier. It's on the RPG University feed, and it might be up on everything or have its own website posts by the time you hear this. So, thank you to Danny Wiesner for opening music of Two Player Co-op and our closing music of The World is Saved. Thank you to the IP editors for working so hard in Boston. Thank you to Tony, Scott, and Nabishin for joining me always on this very fun podcast. Thanks, Jarrett, for coming on. I hope you had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I love you, boys. Big hugs all the way around. I've been Alex O'Neill. Play your games, stay rational. We will talk to you all next week. I must close the Google Doc too early. I was like, we still got one thing left.
We got some titles.
Titles.
How many we got in there?
We have 5.
Ooh, it's a lot of titles.
All
right, we got Why Is It Always a Yeti? Shattered Dreams. Shout out to the homie Satan.
I about that.
And let's see, is this the one with Sephiroth in it? And hey, are you all right?
I'm not, but I will be. Thank you for asking, everyone. I like Shout Out to the Homie Satan, but I also like, is this the one with Sephiroth? So, oh, Nabashin, it would have warmed your fucking little heart. It was so cool just to see him get into it. He's like, this is fun. I was like, I know. And then he texted me the next night. He's like, we should hang out and play Final Fantasy VII again. And I was like, hell yeah, that's my boy. I'm such a proud dad. What do you like, Jarrett? What do you want the title to be?
I feel like if we're trying to ride the wave, is this the one with Sephiroth?
All aboard the wave. Nabashin, what do you like?
Homie seat.
Tony?
I like, is this the one with Sephiroth in it?
Scotty?
Well, that one just kind of takes it now, doesn't it?
Nah, if you like it,
That's a 3.
you can swing me to the Homie Satan. But that's the only other one.
I was gonna pick the other one.
Then is this one with Sephiroth in it? Takes the cake. Jarrett, do you want to say the episode number, and I can say the title?
As soon as I figure out what episode number it is.
Yeah,
459.
I'm writing it
I
down.
found it. All right, give me a second.
Thank you, Nabashin. God, that's the wrong note. God, I will never. When we hit 500, I think I'm going to stop numbering the podcast because I keep fucking it up.
Nah,
Oh,
dude,
did you? Was that not? Oh,
we gotta know.
I mean, I'll keep the numbers written down, but like, maybe not. All right, I'll keep it in the docs. It's fine. It's just.
Maybe you should just learn how to fucking count.
I just can't. It's hard for me. Okay, it's like 4, 5, 9. Fuck what? 4, 6, 1. All right.
How dare these numbers have other numbers?
Whenever you're ready, Jarrett.
All right. Ready. You are listening to the Irrational Passions Podcast, episode 459.
Is this the one with Sephiroth in it?
It's good. Crushed it.
Crushed it. Nailed it. Yes.
Nailed it.
Thanks everybody for watching. If you're tuning in live, we're gonna go